Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching 7th part of What If Naruto Was the Black Dragon of Apocalypse. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The Grand Magic Games were now in their third day. This time, Chapati, Ujima, and Captain of the Rune Knights Lahar were the judges. Because of this, Jelal Mistogen decided he should stay away from the stadium to stay out of trouble. So Kana played in his place today. Wendy was also playing for her team, and she might have done so until the games were over. At the moment, Katya, Momon, Eclair, and Yukino were with the other members of the Fairy Tale Guild. The girls and the bird were worried that the guild wouldn't accept them easily, so they were happy to see that everyone welcomed them with open arms. Katya and Momon felt right at home. Yukino was shy but having fun with her new friends, and Eclair was still hesitant around the guild members, which was sad. Kagura, Sayla, Demaria, Brandish, and Miliana were all part of Mermaid Heel. Anna was also watching the games with her guild, but she made sure that only her guild could see her by putting on a mask. Dobengal and Yukino were replaced by Minerva and Rufus, so they were no longer a part of Sabretooth. Dorenbolt, who is a member of the Magic Council and is sitting in the stands to watch the game, was also a surprise guest. Even though it was clear from the look on his face that he didn't want to be there. Fairy Tale was in the games, and Lahar knew that he wanted to see them, so he pretty much forced him to watch them. Dorenbolt wasn't sure how to react to all of this, though. The last surprise visitor was a black dragon who sat in the stands and watched the games. Naruto thought, I hope nothing bad happens, but if I know Fairy Tale, I know that's likely to happen. Today, the GMG competition is pandemonium, and one player from each guild will take part. These are the people who were chosen for each guild. Urza for FTA. FTB for Kana. Orga for the name Sabretooth. Mermaid Heels Demaria. Bullet for Quattro Cerberus. Obra for Raventail. Jura for Lamia Scale. Hibiki for Blue Pegasus. The Pumpkinhead announcer, Mato, told everyone what the rules were as a huge castle appeared in the middle of the arena. Sorry, I wasn't there yesterday. It was my day off. The games we played today were easy to understand. There were 100 monsters in the castle. All of the monsters have a simple rank, which goes from D to S. Each person could decide for themselves how many monsters they wanted to fight. Even if they picked 1, 5, 10, or more than 50. The trick was that the monsters a person gets are chosen at random, so they could get all D rank monsters, all A rank monsters, or even an S rank monster. This added a new danger that everyone would have to think about when deciding how many monsters they wanted to fight. The last rule was that the participant had to keep fighting until they beat all the monsters they chose or they fell and got the points they earned from beating the monsters they did beat. Mato then told everyone to pick a number from a hat to decide who would go first. Urza got number 1. This made Urza smile. Urza said out loud, luck of the draw, huh? Mato said, luck? It's more about keeping up with the pace and making good decisions. The order of battle doesn't really matter in this game. Urza started to move forward as she said, this is no longer a game. Huh? Asked Mato. Urza said, my challenge right will be all 100. Everyone just dropped their jaws when Urza said what she did. Well, everyone laughed, except for Natsu, Gray, and Wendy. Gildarts and Laxus smiled and shook their heads as Mira laughed. Irene just gave her daughter a facepalm in disgust at what she was doing, which made everyone in her guild laugh. Wait. That's suicidal. The challenge was never meant for one person to handle all 100 on their own. Everybody thought that Urza had gone crazy. Oh, they would find out how wrong they were. I don't care. I won't talk about this because nothing has changed, but if you want to see Urza beat all those monsters, look up the anime version of the book on YouTube. Everyone in the crowd just dropped their jaws in complete shock. They all yelled, EHHHHHHHHHHH? In surprise. Chapati shouted, Erza Scarlet has defeated all 100 monsters. Is this the return of Fairy Tale? Ujima said with a smile, I give up. Nothing will surprise me anymore. Lahar asked Ujima, they never do anything normal, do they? Ujima just shook his head. Nope. Kana said, no way to top that. Demaria asked, can I get a slip? I don't think any of us could, even if we wanted to. Kana said, sure. With a smile, and then she gave Demaria her flask. Bullet said, she takes being reckless to a whole new level. Jura said, magnificent as always. Obra said nothing. I don't like this. Orga said in annoyance. Minerva thought to herself, well, this is getting a lot more interesting. Miliana cheered out loud, yay, Urza-chan. Irene Sama's child shouldn't be any different, Kagura said as she looked at Urza's image on the screen. Sayla said, that'll just make the games more exciting. Irene was both angry and proud of how strong her daughter was. Anna teased, like mother, like daughter. Irene looked at her, sighed, and then looked at Urza with proud eyes and a big smile on her face. Irene said, yes, she is. She is a wonderful girl and a mage. I couldn't be more proud to have her as my daughter. Naruto said in a wistful way, you're just as stubborn and determined as Irene was when she was your age, Urza. Naruto whispered to himself, you are an amazing mage, my Benihime. I hope we can connect like I did with Wendy. I want us to be a family again. I just hope you can accept me when we finally meet and you find out everything about me. Urza hobbled back to the arena as the castle of Pandemonium vanished. Erza. Urza didn't have much time to respond before her team crushed her with a hug. Ouch. Thanks for the hugs, guys, but I'm still hurting from the event, she said with a wince. The rest of the team laughed at how careless she was, but they helped her to the infirmary to get bandages. Well, now that Pandemonium is not available, we need to rank the remaining 7 contestants, so we have come up with a simple game for them, Chapati told the crowd. This is the Magic Power Finder, or MPF. When this item is hit with magical power, it is represented by a number. These numbers will be used to rank them. Now, let's keep going in the order we decided before Kabu. Mado said. Demaria said, then that would be me. Before making a big war axe. Soon, a golden aura started to surround her axe, and she dashed toward the sphere and cut it with a wide slash. 5,385. Oh. Demaria of Mermaid Hell already setting a high bar to cross. In fact, I wouldn't expect anything less from Wizard Saint Mage, said Lahar. Natsu said, damn, I didn't know that she was a wizard saint like Jura. Urza told her team as she was being bandaged, that just shows that Mermaid Hell isn't pulling any punches anymore. You guild is amazing, Ka-san. Laxus seemed to be interested in what Demaria could do. Mira Jane's eyes started to shine. She laughed as she thought, my shipping senses are tingling. Suddenly, a chill went down the spines of several mages. Next is the Bullet of Quattro Cerberus. Bullet yelled, time to roar. Incursio. As he put on silver armor that looked a lot like Wave's Grand Chariot. Damn, that guy is so much better than Laxus. Natsu yelled because he could feel magic power. Gray was just as surprised as everyone else and said, no kidding. Dragon cut. He yelled as he cut the ball. 4,250. Oh. Another high score. High standards are being set for the other candidates. Demaria said, not bad, Bullet-san. She always respected strong people, so Bullet looked sheepish and bowed to show her appreciation. Thank you, Dimari-san. Hibiki was next, but he got a low score of 365 because he wasn't a combat mage. However, Lahar still praised him because that score would make him a squad captain of the Rune Knights. Obra of Raventail got a terrible score of 4, which made the Fairy Tail and Mermaid Heel mages suspicious of what that guild was up to. What was even more suspicious was that the imp was still alive after Naruto impaled it. Up next is Orga of Sabretooth. Listen to how happy that crowd is for him. Orga walked up to the machine and started to charge his arms with Black Lightning. Black Lightning Cannon 120mm. The blast of black electricity hit the mark. 3,975. K. Orga grunted. Another high score. This moves Sabretooth to 4th. Oh well. Sting said, it's not like we could do anything better than what they've already done. Rufus answered while keeping his attention on the other contestants, we'll make up for this in the battle portion. Indeed we will. Minerva said. Now we'll see if Jura of the 10 Wizard Saints can break the current rankings. Can Jura get the win? Sharia asked in a worried way. I don't doubt that at all. But it's too soon to tell, Leon said. He'll always trust Jura, but you can never be sure of anything. Can I go all out, if I may ask? Mato was asked nicely by Jura. I wouldn't want anything less than that, Kabu. Jura gave a grateful smile. Rumbling MT. Fuji. A flash of blue light surrounded the MPF in the same way. 8,544. Holy shit. Jura, that's way too much. Damn, old man with too much power, Demaria said with a mix of amusement and irritation. Bullet said, it was to be expected that another mage would have the mark of a wizard saint. Gildarts just smiled when he thought about his future rivals. Makarov said, Gildarts will have a hell of a time fighting him. Mavis just laughed. Don't forget, Rokudame. Someone with Gildart's blood is going to take part. Kana of FTB is the last competitor. Let's encourage her to do the best she can. So now it's my turn? Kana's words were a little jumbled. We're doomed. Wakaba and Macau said. Max said, I hope she does well on the test. Nab replied, anything is better than last place. Kana said, well, then, here we go, as she started to take off her top. Don't strip. Yelled a few mage members of her guild. Well, time for me to strike. Kana said, pointing to a mark on her arm that she knew. Wait, that's not it? Several fairy tale mages yelled in shock. Shodem? Makarov asked or shouted as he looked at his predecessor in a confused way. I let her borrow it for this competition, she said, then looked at Makarov with stars in her eyes and stars floating all around her. There was nothing Makarov could do but gape in shock and horror. Gather. Oh, light fairy guiding river. Kana started to chant as she put the second mark on her arm and raised it into the air. She had a lot of hidden magical skills to start with. She just needed the right push. But she will know how to use it correctly this time. Shine. Destroy the evil fangs. Fairy glitter. Kana yelled as she put her arm back down, and as soon as she did, a huge explosion of golden light engulfed the MPF. The audience and the other contestants were all shocked by what they saw. Ivan said with a lustful look in his eyes, that was one of the 3 great spells of fairy tale. Naruto thought to himself, they never do anything normal, do they? He was both amused and annoyed by this thought. 9,999. What in the heck? After the MPF had reached its maximum output, it broke. What the heck is this guild? Is this Fairy Tail's comeback? We can't be stopped. After all, we are Fairy Tail. Kana yelled as she struck a pose for the crowd. Mato said, food for thought Kabu. Narpunding went up to his team leader in the stands and said, Alexei-sama. He handed Alexei a piece of paper with the battle pairings on it and said, good. Alexei said, now we can start our plan to reach our goal, and everyone gave him a wicked grin. The first match is between Eve from Blue Pegasus and Rufus from Sabretooth. Rufus easily beat Eve. The second match was between Sayla and Lubbock. It was an interesting fight for both of them, but Sayla won in the end. The next match was between Laxus Drayar and Alexei, and everyone was watching. Makarov asked Warren, is everyone in touch with you through your telepathy magic? Yes, Master. Warren mentally gave a salute. Makarov asked, is everyone in place? Biska, I'm here. I'm ready. Makarov said, that's good. When you see something strange, shoot it. Thunder Legion? Lisana? Lisana said, we're all position masters. If anyone tries to cheat, we'll notice. As if I would let those jerks mess with Laxus's match, Freed said with a lot of anger. That made everyone laugh. Hey, Master Ever, Elfman's overprotective girlfriend asked if she could check on him because she was worried about him, Bixlow said. A blushing Evergreen yelled, I did not say that. I am not overprotectionist. And I am not his girlfriend. This made everyone laugh a little. Even Freed, who was always so serious, had to crack a smile. FTA and FTB, I'll count on you two to let us know if you see something we don't, Makarov said. Hi, Master. Yelled the two teams. Wendy, I have a question. Alright, Master. Is your dad going to do anything? I think he's watching the games, but whether or not he'll get involved depends on what happens. Makarov nodded and said, Ivan, I will no longer let you hurt my guild. Mavis laughed with joy. What's the matter, Shodem? He said. Nope. Mavis said before she started to look up at the sky. I just like this situation a little bit. Makarov jerked up in confusion. It's wonderful. The guild I've hoped for in its best form is right in front of me. Don't ever forget this feeling, Rokudame. Thank you, Shodam, for your kind words. Calm yourself, Rokudame. Several people shouted out loud and in their minds. Now then everyone let the match begin. Okay, so Pops hired you, but who are you? Laxus asked in a way that was both interested and suspicious. Alexei suddenly rushed up to Laxus and hit him hard with a haymaker. This shocked everyone in Fairy Tail, and Laxus fell to the floor, bleeding from the side of his mouth. This guy. But before Laxus could hit back, he was hit again and sent flying. Gray replied, "No way. Laxus is losing?" Natsu yelled in surprise. "Who is this person?" Lucy said, afraid. Wendy and Urza said to each other, "Something is wrong." Laxus continues to get pummeled by Alexei. He can't move a finger. What they didn't know, though, was that what they were seeing was a trick. He was still standing with his arms crossed. What does this all mean? Laxus asked. Alexei said, "It's a kind of trick magic. No one in the stadium or at home can see our real bodies. Those of us talking right now are the ones who can. They can't hear us at all. Right now, they are seeing two illusions fight." Alexei then makes a wide arc with his arms. "It was a good trick, wouldn't you say?" Laxus chuckled. "I don't think you did this to show off. What's going on here?" Alexei chuckled. As always, full of energy. Then Alexei started reaching for his mask. "You were always like that when you were a spoiled brat." He took off his mask, which showed Ivan's face. "Stupid son." As the rest of Team Raventail came up next to him, he said. The eyes of Laxus narrowed. "Crap Pops. Is that really how you want to talk to me? It's not like you were ever a perfect dad." Ivan laughed. "Since we won't be interrupted anymore, we can have a good talk." Laxus laughed before taking off his cloak. "There's nothing to talk about because I'll get rid of all of you right now." They were brave enough to laugh. "Really, you think you can beat us all?" Ivan mocked. "Since our youngest member beat one of your members and made the other one run away, I think I can do the same." Laxus laughed along with him. Ivan then scowled because Obra and Narpunding were giving the lightning mage dirty looks for reminding them. "Yes, that was something I didn't plan for. I have to say that I never thought Makarov's guild would have a mage like that. It's too bad she isn't in my guild. I'd love to see what's going on inside her to find out what makes her tick." Laxus's eyes got narrow as lightning danced around his body, making him angry. "Stop talking. Just hearing you talk makes me angry. Now. Laxus-chan, don't be so tense. There is still a lot to talk about. I need you to answer a question that Makarov will never answer, even when he's on his deathbed. What happened to the Lumen Histoire? What the hell are you talking about?" Laxus asked, sounding confused. "Come on now, Makarov must have told you something. You really don't hear well. I already told you I don't know much. Gigi never mentioned this Lumen Histoire to me. I wouldn't tell you if he did, even if he did." "Ha ha ha. I see you won't give up, huh? Well, it doesn't matter, because there's nothing that can help you get out of this hopeless situation." Laxus just gave a determined look to his father and his team. "Bring everything at once. The people who are against my master and my guild are against me. You need to learn a lesson. I'll show you what my anti-fairy tale, Raventail, can do." Back with the rest of the crowd, they kept watching Laxus and Alexei fight. "Laxus, what the heck are you doing?" yelled Natsu. "What's going on, Biska?" Makarov yelled out of worry. "Master, I don't know. They aren't doing anything." Wendy's eyes got really wide. "There's something wrong here," Wendy told herself. "Yeah," said Dark. Warren blinked. He knew every person in the guild by their voice, including Katya, Momin, Yukino, and Eclair's new ones. But he had never heard this voice before. Stranger still is that it came from Wendy. Even though he knew it wasn't a good idea, he tried to get into Wendy's mind until he was hit with terrible pain. His head felt like it was on fire. Arg. Warren let out a grunt as he got down on his hands and knees. "Warren?" Several mages yelled out in alarm. "Warren, what's the matter?" Makarov asked. "There's something wrong. Warren, I would tell you not to do that again," an unfamiliar voice said. Several people yelled, "Who the hell is this? How did you start talking to me through my mind?" Makarov demanded. As he spoke again, the voice seemed amused. "Come on, I had no trouble getting into this." Wendy's eyes got big when she heard the voice she knew. "DD Daddy?" Every member of the guild yelled, "EHHHHH?" "Wendy, is this your father?" Lucy called out. "How is it that he can do that?" Urza thought to herself. "Are you the one making Warren feel bad?" Makarov asked in a short, sharp way. "Yes." Naruto didn't take long to answer. "What in the world?" Every one of them yelled. "What are you doing?" Makarov demanded. "I did this because that jerk tried to get inside Wendy's head," she said. "What?" Everyone yelled, but Wendy sounded the most angry. "Is this true, Warren? I told you not to ever use your magic in that way again." "It's a privacy invasion." Makarov called out. "Gomen, Master. It was just that I heard someone else I didn't know, and it was Wendy." Warren tried to explain, but the added pressure on his head made him cry out again. "I don't care if you thought she heard a circus. Don't go into my daughter's head without her permission." Naruto gave a growl. Wendy, Dark, and Urza couldn't believe how overprotective their father was. "I swear I won't do this again," he said. Warren let out a cry. "I think so. It would be a shame if your mind shrank to the size of a small plant." Naruto said so. When the warning was given, everyone shook. They had forgotten how cruel Naruto can be. Warren finally let out a sigh when he felt the pressure on his mind lift. "Now, I'm surprised that none of you have seen what's wrong. Even more so you, Urza, with that fake eye of yours," Naruto said. Urza and a few other people were confused by what she said. "What are you saying?" Urza asked. "Instead of telling you, let me show you." "What do you?" "Enchantment. Share what you see." All of a sudden, the members of the guild felt a tingling in their eyes, and their eyes began to change color to look like Naruto's. "Now look at the arena, but this time try to see things as I do," Naruto said. When everyone from Fairy Tail looked down, they were shocked to see Laxus facing the whole Raventail team, including Ivan dressed as Alexei. They all yelled, "What the fuck? How can they be in two places at the same time?" When everyone looked back at the Raventail Guild stand, they were shocked to see that no one was there. "Huh?" Naruto laughed to himself. "You get it now. The team you were watching never existed in the first place. They used a trick to keep you from seeing the real team, which was down in the arena." "Master, something needs to be done about this." Makarov was about to say something, but Makarov Drayar. Naruto spoke. "What's the matter, Naruto?" "I think you should stay out of this fight," she said. "What? What the heck do you mean by don't get involved? This is a slur against Laxus-sama. There must be payback." Everyone kept talking, but Guildarts, Makarov, Wendy, and Urza didn't join in because they knew Naruto wouldn't say something like that without a reason. "Why are you asking me to do this?" he asked. Everyone yelled, "Master, Makarov-sama." Silence. "Now let Naruto speak." Makarov spoke in a way that showed he was in charge. "Laxus is more than ready to deal with these idiots. None of them can match the brat's strength. Don't worry, if things get bad, I'll take care of it myself." Naruto told them. "Okay, we'll follow your plan." Makarov finally said. Everyone yelled, "Master? I have faith that Laxus can win, and if something bad happens to him, we will help." "Is that clear?" "Yes, Master," the others said when they finally gave in. When they got back to the arena, Laxus looked at the team. He didn't understand what Ivan said. "A group against Fairy Tail?" Laxus asked with doubt. Ivan smiled, "You're right. I have put together a group of people and learned magic and techniques that take advantage of all of Fairy Tail's weaknesses. Do you really want to fight with us? I know all about your flaws in particular. I was the one who gave you that tear, after all. I think it makes sense for me to be the one to take it back." Laxus chuckled. "I already know this nonsense. So does Gramps." This made all of Raventail's eyes get bigger. They all yelled, "What? How could he possibly know?" Laxus smiled. "Your so-called spy knows how to act, and he or she got you to play along. Gajeel has betrayed us." Flare made a noise. "To begin with, he was never with you. It's your fault that you fell for it." "Wait. If Makarov had known all along, Why didn't he do anything? Narpunding asked. Because the old man is so stubborn that he always holds back when he shouldn't. I guess he still had faith in you because you're his son and he's his father. But I don't. I didn't believe you when you came back without my mom. And after Wendy and Lucis' little trick. Even more than before, Laxus looked mad. I'm done with you, I'm done with you. Ivan was angry, so he sent hundreds of his paper dolls to surround Laxus. Silence. You insufferable brat. How dare you speak to me like that? You're only here right now because of me. As for your mother, she stopped being useful the moment she had such a weak child. I threw her away like the rubbish she was. Now I'll do the same thing to you and make Makarov watch, just like he did before. Suddenly, a few of the paper dolls joined together to make paper monsters that surrounded the Raventail team. Soon, a few of these monsters also began to gather around Laxus. The lightning mage's eyes have just turned wild. As the lightning danced even faster around him, he let out a loud growl. Well, if you're so sure of yourself. Laxus smiled and said, I guess I'll have to make things a little more fair. This made both the Raventail team and the Fairytale team confused, especially when Laxus raised his right arm and showed a very complicated tattoo on it. Natsu asked, what is Laxus doing? I don't know, but it had better be something to even out the playing field. Gray said. Those marks look like a version of a tattoo for calling people. Wendy thought. I agree with you. Dark replied. I wonder why Laxus decided to work with him. We'll find out soon. You know, it kinda bothered me that every Dragonslayer in the guild had an Exceed partner. I had never been interested in getting an Exceed, but then I heard that that Cobra guy had a partner who was a winged serpent. It made me think that maybe I should look for a partner who is a good match for me. As a seal appeared below Laxus, the tattoo started to glow brightly. Then, when I went to the mountains 3 months before the GMG, I met a new friend. We got off to a bad start, but we came to an agreement. At this point, blue and yellow lightning was dancing around Laxus and coming out of the seal. Ivan just laughed. Like getting a pet would help you. Ivan mocked. In response, Laxus just smiled. I wouldn't be quite so sure. Laxus answered back. Familiar magic for calling things. From the seal, a bright light wrapped around Laxus's body. The light was so bright that Ivan and Fairytale, who were watching, could not see it. Naruto kept watching the fight with interest. What could he be calling forth? Naruto was genuinely interested. When the light went out, everyone blinked to get their eyes back, and what they saw made them drop their jaws. Behind Laxus, there was a huge beast. It was between 10 and 15 meters long and between 2 and 5 meters high. It looked like a wolf and a dragon or wyvern had a baby. It had rows of sharp teeth in its jaw that could rip through flesh like paper. It had teal scales all over its body and green claws. It had golden yellow scales on its paws, arms, upper chest, tail, lower jaw, spiked back, and 2 horns that stuck out from the top of its head. It had white fur on its head, arms, tail, and stomach. Its mane was also white. It had electric blue eyes that didn't have pupils, so they looked like endless blue portals. The creature's eyes were filled with blue lightning, and lightning danced all over its body. The people in Fairytale and Raventail couldn't say anything. What the hell? Natsu and Gray yelled. What is that? Yelled the other guild members. Someone close to Makarov asked, Master, do you know what that is? Makarov looked down at the arena with his mouth open. How in the world did he manage to tame that beast? He asked in amazement. Master, what kind of creature is that? Urza asked. It's a Zinigray. Zinigray? Everyone asked. Most people in the guild said, I've never heard of this creature. If you did, it would surprise me. It is a dangerous animal that is related to wyverns by a long way. They like to be alone and usually take care of their own business. But if you get on its land, you'd better be ready for the fight of your life. Since it was first written about, the Zinigray has been said to have killed hundreds of people. Only mages at Urza's level or higher could handle this kind of creature. Makarov explained. Damn. How in the world did Laxus find one and actually sign a contract with them? After the fight, we'll have to ask him. I think you mean after this beating up, she said. I never thought I'd meet a person who could control the aggressive and territorial Zinigray. I don't know how he got this animal to be his familiar. You fairy tale mages never fail to surprise, amuse me. Naruto had a thought in his mind. Ivan yelled, "How in the hell did you get a Zinogree to become your friend?" He was very surprised. "That's for me to know, and you'll never find out," Laxus said with a smirk and then put his right hand up. "Zeke, go have some fun." When Laxus snapped his fingers, Zeke jumped and was on the other side in a matter of seconds. The Zinogree killed a few of Ivan's paper monsters with one quick swipe of his claws. What? How did he kill them so easily? The Raven Tail mages yelled. Obra, go and drain his magical energy. Ivan gave the order. Obra was about to start when Laxus suddenly appeared in front of him, slammed a hard fist into his stomach, and then slammed another fist into his face, knocking the blue-skinned mage to the ground. After the impact, a large crater was made. "This is what you get for trying to rape someone and thinking you can get away with it, you damn freak," Laxus muttered. As his arm got bigger, Narpunding jumped forward. Stick arm. Laxus only used one arm to grab him. He lifted his other arm as a ball of electricity formed on his hand. "This is because you tried to hurt Wendy on the first day." Electro ball. Scorch, red-haired. Flare called out. Laxus gave the woman with red hair a mean look. "This is what you get for trying to steal Lucis Win. Rareu no Hoko." The roar attack went right through Flare's red hair and hit the red-haired mage in the head. She screamed, "Ah!" as she was thrown away. Kurohebi crept up on Laxus from behind, but the blonde didn't seem to mind. "You really annoy me, you weirdo," Laxus yelled as he sent him flying away. Ivan's mouth was hanging open. His whole team was made to fight Fairy Tail without much trouble. How is this possible? So quickly, my best team has lost. No. I won't just let this end like that. Come to me, my Shikigami. Ivan, though, saw that none of his monsters were around him. He looked around and saw that the Zinogree had eaten his arm and was coughing up chunks of the paper monsters. Laxus laughed and said, "Hey. Damn you bastard child. I'm not going to fall here." Ivan screamed as black and violet magical energy came out of his body. "Shikigami. Chimera Army." Ivan yelled as he made about 50 more monsters out of paper. They were all about 10 meters long and had the tail of a king cobra, the lower body of a goat, and the front body and head of a lion. He yelled, "Attack." All of the monsters tried to attack Laxus, but he wasn't scared. He just let out a lightning roar, which killed a few of the monsters. The rest were able to get themselves back together, and they were about to charge again, but Zeke decided to have some more fun. The Zinogree ripped through the rest of the army like blue lightning. Zeke landed next to Laxus and looked at his partner. "Good job, buddy." Zeke just growled to say yes. Ivan just stares at them in shock for a moment before his face turns red with anger. "No, no, 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 no." He yelled, "I refuse to lose to this lowlife and his pet." As the last bits of his sanity left him, Laxus and Zeke both gave the poor man in front of them a dirty look. Ivan's powers suddenly started to grow, and white lightning started to cover his body. This surprised the two of them because they had never thought Ivan could use lightning, let alone one of the strongest kinds of lightning magic. "Brat, you will fall. My master blessed me with this power. With this power, I can't be stopped." Laxus and Zeke started to be careful. "Let's go, you deadbeat." Ivan answered by going away in a flash of white light. Ivan quickly knocked Laxus off his feet by giving him a haymaker to the face. In another flash, he was gone. Then, he popped up above Laxus and hit him with an axe kick. But Laxus was able to catch Ivan's leg and get back on his feet. Laxus laughed at Ivan as he growled, but when Ivan felt something above him, his eyes grew wide. As Zeke fell, he quickly jumped back. New powers. Same results. I will not give in. Ivan then started to gather white lightning in his hands, which he then brought together to make a big ball of power. "Let's see how you handle all of my power in one shot." Ivan threw the attack at those who were against him. Ivan thought he was sure to win. So he couldn't believe it when Zeke went straight into the attack. A flash of light made the two mages lose their sight. When they got their sight back, they looked for Zeke, and Ivan was shocked by what he saw. Zeke was not hurt at all. In fact, it looked like his attack made it stronger because instead of blue lightning covering its body, white lightning did, and his eyes were pure white. WWW what? Laxus just grinned. You see, that's what makes Xenograe so unique. They can take in and make just about any kind of lightning. White lightning is part of this. There are only 3 things that Xenograe can have that are rare. 2 of them can only be used by a certain kind of slayer. The last one comes from a fruit that is hard to find. After that, Laxus looked at Zeke. Could you give me a hand? Then Zeke shot a bolt of white lightning at Laxus. Laxus's magical power went through the roof as a yellow and white lightning aura wrapped around his body. Ivan started to back up out of fear. Hey, Laxus, you wouldn't hurt me, would you? I'm your own blood and flesh. Laxus just gave the fool an angry look. My only family is Fairy Tail. And I won't be kind to anyone who hurts my family. Laxus yelled, and both he and Zeke put their heads back. Raryu no Hoko. They shot electricity beams at Ivan. Ivan could only scream in pain as he was thrown back into the wall of the arena. This broke the illusion in the area. The audience and the judges all yelled, "What the hell? What on earth is happening? 1 minute LAXUS is being dominated in the fight, and now he's the last man standing with a... Hang on. Is that a Zinogre by his side?" Chapati called out. Mato then walked over to Alexei, but when he saw it was Ivan, he was shocked. Holy crap. Ivan Dreyar, Alexei is in fact the guildmaster. What? That is obviously against the rules. The other members must have been trying to take over LAXUS, and they must have used an illusion to hide what they were doing. That runs you out of the race right away. Chapati said. Wait, so Laxus beat the whole team all by himself? What's going on with that fairy tale guild? How many monsters does that guild have? That means the winner Issa. LAXUSDREYAR. Mato shouted in a happy way. Hooray! Mirajane was happy and cheered. Wow, Laxus, that was great. Natsu called out. Just as strong as ever. Urza complimented. Not bad, Laxus. Naruto had an idea. Oh, Laxus Dreyar, you have my full attention now. She said this while licking her lips. From the start, Ivan, you were a fool. Makarov mumbled something as Mavis stared at Ivan's body on the ground. After Zeke left in a flash of lightning, Laxus started to leave as well. He passed Ivan on his way out of the arena, and Ivan had one last thing to say to him. You won this battle, Laxus, but you didn't win the war. I'll come back. My master will, too. You will feel my master's anger. Savitar's vengeance. Don't forget the Lumen Histoire, either. It's Fairy Tail's darkness. Ivan said in a dark, maniacal face. Laxus did nothing but watch as Ivan was led away. Laxus barely looked at him again before walking out of the arena. No one knew that the black imp that had been with Ober the whole time had left his team and was now watching the arena with a sneering grin on its face before vanishing in a flash of darkness. Now then let the last match begin. Wendy Marvell versus Sharia Blendy. Wendy was nervous about her fight and thought, it looks like Dad was right. Get ready, Wendy. Dark said. Then Wendy felt someone touch her shoulder. When she turned around, she saw Urza smiling at her. She said, You've got this, Wendy. Wendy smiled back at her. She said, Thanks, and I won't let you down, and then walked to the arena. Leon told her young teammate, Don't think less of her, Sharia, and be ready to go all out if you have to. Sharia gave a nod. Hi, Leon-sama. At last, I'll see her again. Sharia thought as she walked down the stairs. As they were greeting everyone when they got to the arena, Sharia tripped and fell, but Wendy was able to catch her. When the two were close to each other, they turned pink. They both thought, she's so much cuter up close. Sharia raised her arm and said, Thank you, and it's nice to meet you. Wendy shook her hand and told her, No problem. Same to you. Gray, I hope you're ready to see how strong Sharia really is, Leon told him. Gray shot back, I wouldn't underestimate Wendy either, Leon. Mato yelled, Now then, let the final match begin. The two girls charged at each other with their hands up. When they hit each other, light blue and black winds blew out because of how hard they hit. Wendy tried a leg sweep, but Sharia was able to jump up and avoid it before kicking Wendy in the side. Wendy was able to block the kick, but she was pushed back a few feet. Sharia smiled at Wendy as she looked back. Wendy's arms began to get wrapped up in a white wind. Tenryu no Yokugeki. The wind whirls went straight for Sharia, but the mage with red hair was able to jump, flip, and move around the attack. Wendy moaned, "TCH." Around her arm, black winds started to swirl. Tenjin no Boreasu, Sky God's Boreas. A tornado of black winds shot out of her arm and headed straight for Wendy, but the girl was ready for it. Tenryu no Kaiten. The attack of swirling black winds was stopped by the heavenly spin. "Black winds?" exclaimed Lucy. Orga said, "That jerk couldn't be." Natsu said, "Another one." "That's amazing, Sugoi." "You were able to stop it," Sharia said, then smiled. Then she began, but then she was gone in a blur. When Wendy turned around, she saw Sharia right behind her, surrounded by black winds. Tenjin no Mai, Sky God's Dance. Wendy didn't have time to move out of the way, so she crossed her arms and got ready for the attack. Wendy screamed, "Gaw!" as she was thrown into the air. "Wendy!" her guild yelled. Sharia then jumped into the air to keep attacking, but Wendy got her bearings and yelled, "Tenryu no Kajizum." As the wind swirled around her leg and hit Sharia hard in the face. The two fell back to the floor of the arena. As they took in a lot of air, the two girls turned back to each other. Tenryu Noah. Wendy began. Tenjin no. Sky Gods. Began Sharia. Gajeel began, "That jerk couldn't be." Doranbolt said, "The same as Wendy's magic." Mavis said, "Lost magic." Leon said in a sure voice, "The Sky's ultimate magic." The two sky mages yelled, "Hoko! Dogo, below!" as they cast their signature spells. When the girls hit each other, a huge windstorm came out of their mouths. The girls in a large part of the arena were surrounded by a huge blast of wind. "Gaw!" yelled the judges. "Damn, those are some strong winds." Natsu said. Urza said with worry, "Wendy." Leon said, "She is the Sky God Slayer." When the winds died down, both girls were still standing, but Wendy seemed to have gotten a little more damage than the other. "I don't know what to say. These two were the personification of cuteness." Chapati said as his behavior made his two fellow judges sweat. Ujima shot back, "Your character profile just took a nosedive." Naruto had to fight the urge to rip Chapati's head off or at least silence him. Anna and Irene both had the same ideas. Doranbolt said, "To think there would be a Godslayer in Lamia scale. Wendy has no chance of winning. Damn it. Even though we both used the same amount of power, I got hit harder because of her magic," Wendy thought in frustration. "Your dad did tell you that was going to happen. That's one of the things Godslayers have going for them over us. Not to mention that she's 7 years older than us," said Dark as Wendy got back into a fighting position. "No matter what, I'm not going down without a fight," Wendy said with a lot of emotion. "That's the kind of attitude I like to hear. Now go kick her behind, and then ask her out." Dark said this in a playful way. "Hush you," Wendy said, but she wasn't very nice about it. Sharia tilted her head to the side and said, "You don't seem surprised by my magic." Wendy said, "My teacher told me about you and your magic, so I knew what to expect." Sharia told Wendy, "Wow, your teacher must know a lot." Wendy laughed. She said, "You have no idea. Leon told me a lot about you, Wendy-chan. I'm glad to see someone with magic like mine, but it looks like I was a little too harsh. Don't say you're sorry. This is a fight, and these wounds are nothing compared to what I've been through." Wendy shouted, shocking Sharia and a few other people with her words. Then Sharia got a big grin on her face. "That's the spirit. Let's just enjoy this fight, okay?" Wendy replied, "Hi." She then crossed her arms as a magical seal appeared below her. Veneer. Arms. Armor. Enchant. Wendy heard. Her speed, strength, and defense all went up. "Ho," she said, "I think it's time to take off the gloves." Black winds blew around her hands. "For my guild and my love, I will have to pay you back in full." Sharia yelled. Wendy was being tossed around by black winds, but she was ready. Tenryu no Namiroshi. The black winds were stopped by the wave tornado. Then Wendy yelled, "Windblade barrage." And a bunch of windblades shot out and went straight for Sharia. Sharia just smiled and laughed. Black twisters. As the name suggests, Sharia's seal in front of her sent out several twisting black winds. The twister was able to blow her swords away, but it kept coming toward her. Most of her guild yelled, "Wendy dodge." Tenryu no Tatsumaki. Wendy yelled as she shot a big tornado at the black ones, which hit them. As the winds shot off in all directions, the two attacks cancelled each other out. Then Wendy started running toward Sharia as the wind wrapped its fingers around hers. Cut the air. Sharia hit back with her own version of Wendy's attack, wind sickles. When the two attacks hit each other, they cancelled each other out again. Wendy then made two wind blades, jumped, and slashed Sharia down with one of them. Only for her to block Wendy's attack with her own weapon, sending Wendy backwards. She was surprised to see Sharia holding the weapon when she looked. It was a scythe that was black and violet. Sharia said, "Tenjin no Sukuzu, Sky God Psychtha." She then gave Wendy a challenging smile and looked at her. "Wendy-chan, are you ready for round 2? She said, "I was born ready," and then ran again, but this time Sharia ran after her. They were both in the middle, but Sharia was able to move first because her range was bigger. But Wendy slid under the swing and got right in front of Sharia for an X slash, but Sharia managed to dodge at the last second. Wendy ran forward, but to avoid another blow from the scythe, she had to jump in the air. She then tried to give Wendy a roundhouse kick, but it was blocked. Sharia then tried to hit Wendy again, but it was blocked again. Only for Wendy to use her blades to block. They broke the deadlock and went at each other again. The two girls kept blocking, dodging, or parrying each other's attacks. The performance of the two girls completely captivated the audience. They had expected the older members of the guilds to fight like this, not the newer ones. Chapati yelled, "What an exciting match. Neither one is letting up." Natsu and Gray cheered, "Go Wendy. Kick her ass." Kana said, "Man, whatever her dad taught her is really paying off." Mira said, "It's amazing how much she's changed. Tu-san must have put Wendy through a lot of trouble. But the question is, what did he teach her besides that?" Urza questioned. Several other people in the stadium had the same thought. Miliana said, "Wendy-chan is amazing. She and her opponent are both very skilled," Kagura said. Demaria told Anna-sama, as Anna laughed, "You really do have a wonderful child." "Thank you, she really is, but I think my husband is to blame for this." Toby yelled, "Damn it, Sharia. What's taking you so long to win?" Yuka said, "Calm down. Her opponent isn't giving her many chances to end this quickly." Shelly cheered for her cousin by shouting, "Come on, Sharia. Show them the power of your love." Grandma Uba yelled, "You better start winning, Sharia, or you'll be spinning." Rufus said, "Those two were quite skilled." Minerva said, "Yes, I can see why Dobangle told us to be careful around her." Sting said, "She might be good, but she'll never be as good as us." Minerva gave a nod. When everyone turned to her, she said, "I wouldn't be so sure." Rogue asked, "What do you mean, Lady Minerva?" But as she looked at the arena, she kept quiet. Before talking to her team, she thought, if what Dobangle said is true, this will get very interesting very soon. She told the team, "Just keep watching. I'm sure something interesting will happen soon," before they turned back to her team. "Don't give up, my Chibiheim," Naruto kept thinking as he kept watching the match. Back in the arena, the two girls kept doing their same dance, and it wasn't clear who was going to win. Blood and sweat dripped from their bodies because they had hurt each other in small ways. "Holy crap, this girl is tough. After this, you really need to court her. Which won't happen if you don't break the deadlock." Dark yelled. "I'm doing my best, but she won't stop." Wendy replied with a shout. "Well, do something, because you can't keep letting this go on." Wendy finally had enough and pushed Sharia back with a roar of defiance. "Tobu!" Wendy shouted as she took off. "Wendy can fly?" yelled Natsu in surprise. Lucy said, "At this point, we shouldn't be surprised anymore. Soon, Wendy was able to send energy into her leg. Tenryu no Sutenkyaku. Sharia barely had time to move out of the way before Wendy slammed her foot on the ground. Boom. Where Wendy hit, there was a 10-meter-wide crater and a huge cloud of dust. Everyone's jaws dropped in shock, except Naruto and Anna, who were smiling. There she is, thought the two. Holy crap. I knew Wendy was strong, but this is crazy, said Natsu in shock. Yeah, you're right. I never thought Wendy would get so strong in such a short time, Lucy said in shock. Sugoi Wendy, Urza said. Katya said in awe, Wendy-san is so strong. She had no idea Wendy would be so strong. So it makes sense that she saved her and her friends so easily. Momin chirped, super strong. How did she get like this? Eclair thought this with some doubt. How did Wendy, a young mage, get so strong in such a short time? Did her dad do something to make this happen? I never thought Wendy-san could be so strong. With that kind of strength, she could easily be one of the best mages in Sabretooth, Yukino said in a surprised voice. Leon said, that was close, Sharia. Wendy has proven to be a tough opponent for Sharia. If she wants to win, she'll have to show how strong she really is, Jura said as Leon nodded. Agreed. Sharia just stood there and stared at Wendy in shock. Sugoi, Wendy. You're very strong. If I hadn't dodged, I'd be in pain. You, too, Sharia-chan, are strong. Sharia got a little red when she heard the last part of her name. Wendy-chan, it looks like I need to take you seriously now. Wendy looked straight at her opponent while leaning her head back and taking in the air around them. Suddenly, Wendy and every other mage could feel a huge amount of power rising up from Sharia as a black and violet aura surrounded her. She turned around and looked at Wendy, and her eyes began to glow red. She said, Sky God Aura. A member of Lamia Scales smiled when she saw that Sharia was finally giving this fight her all. Even though they weren't sure if Wendy could answer this. Wendy's eyes got really wide. It's just like my drive mode. Lily said, her power just went up a lot. Carla asked in worry, can Wendy handle this? Happy said, I sure hope so. Sting said to Orga, hey, I've never seen you do that before. No way would I waste that power on people who are weaker than me, and this match is already over. Well, Wendy, are you ready to continue? Asked Sharia. Wendy smiled and then started to take in a lot of air as her magical power started to rise. Her arms got white scales and her hands turned into sharp claws. Her eyes got red slits, her hair got pink highlights, and she got whisker marks on her cheeks. Wendy yelled, Tsukai Doraibu. This made a lot of people's eyes widen in shock. Yukino yelled in shock, she has drive mode, too? I thought only Sting-san and Rogue-san could do that. Makarov asked Yukino, who was also in his guild, to explain this change. Yes, Makarov-sama. I've seen Sting-san and Rogue-san use drive mode before. It easily increases their power by up to 10 times. Everyone yelled, 10 times? I always thought that only a third-generation Dragonslayer could get to this form, since I've never heard of any other Slayers getting there. How did Wendy-san get there in only 3 months? They didn't need to know the answer because they all already knew it. Sting yelled in shock, how can she have drive mode? There's no way anyone from my generation should know this, said Rogue, who was also shocked. Rufus said, it looks like Dobengal's warning is coming true. Sharia watched in surprise before giving a smirk. Ready to go, Wendy? Hi. The two rushed toward each other as their fists hit each other again, sending out several strong winds. What an explosive power. And from the two youngest members of their respected guilds. The two girls started to fight again and kept matching each other blow for blow. Tenryu no Tenku Haya. Wendy yelled as she hit Sharia with a roundhouse kick. Sharia moved a few feet away, then lunged back and hit Wendy in the face with a hard haymaker. Wendy fell back a few feet before she got back on her feet. Then Sharia gave her a smirk and started quickly rotating her arm. Soon, wind started to gather around her, and before long, it was swirling around her arm like a tiny tornado. Wendy was careful because she knew that attack meant trouble. Sharia went away and then showed up right above Wendy. Tenjin no Senpuken, Sky God's Tornado Fist. Wendy didn't have much time to react, but she managed to move at the last second. As soon as Sharia's fist hit the ground, a huge explosion of whirlwinds came out of the impact. Wendy lost her balance for a few minutes because the force was so strong. The rest of the crowd was stunned by that show of strength. Natsu yelled, "Damn, that's some strong wind magic." Several guild members yelled, "Stay strong, Wendy." Carla yelled, "Wendy." She was worried. Wendy watched in shock as Sharia's attack did a lot of damage. "Okay, new plan. Definitely don't do that." "Agreed." Dark said. "Sugoi Wendy, you were able to avoid this one, but you won't be able to avoid the next one," Sharia said. She then started charging the next one. Wendy said, "Here we go," and then ran toward Sharia. But it was too late because Sharia's fist was already up. "This is it, Wendy." Sharia yelled as she hit Wendy in the gut with her fist. But all of a sudden, Wendy vanished in a gust of wind. Sharia's eyes get big with surprise. Sharia yelled, "A wind clone?" Then, all of a sudden, Wendy appeared right below Sharia holding a ball of magical energy. "Take this, Sharia. Tenryu no Rasengan," Wendy said as she hit Sharia in the stomach with the attack. But Sharia wasn't going down so easily, and she hit Wendy in the stomach with her still-working Senpuken. Both girls lost their breath when they were thrown back to the floor of the arena with a loud boom. "Wendy, Sharia," was what each guild yelled for their members. Oh my, after now devastating collusion, both girls have landed back on the arena. WHO will stand in the aftermath.
When the smoke cleared, both girls were on their hands and knees, coughing up blood, spit, and bile.
"Cough, that was great, Wendy, but I have something you don't have." Wendy coughed out, "Cough, and what's that?" And everyone was shocked, especially Wendy, when Sharia's wounds started to heal and go away. Sharia said, "This is the best thing about my magic, I can heal my wounds." Leon said with a proud tone, "Sharia was our secret weapon for these games. No one can stop her, and she hasn't even used that form yet." Gray muttered, "Damn it. I can't believe that Leon had someone like this up his sleeve." Wendy, a lot of people in her guild thought with worry. Sharia started to move forward to finish, but then she coughed violently and held her stomach in pain. "Sharia, what's wrong?" shouted her care team. "This hurt. I thought I had fixed the damage Wendy's attack had done. But the damage was worse than I thought it would be." When Wendy saw Sharia start to stumble, she knew this was her best chance to stop this fight for good. So she gets up quickly and ignores the pain in her stomach that is getting worse. She spread her arms, and a spark of magic began to come from her. "Metsuryu Ugi. Wait, she already knows how to do it?" Poor Lyuzuka yelled in shock. Happy asked, "Hey, is that one of the spells Grandini and her dad left her?" Lily said, "I hope it'll be enough." Carla prayed, "Please let me win, Wendy." All of a sudden, a big wind vortex surrounded the two people. Wendy yelled, "Shoha Tenkuzan." A magic seal appeared and shot a huge blast of wind magic right at Sharia. The Sky God Slayer had no choice but to take the full force of the attack and hit the ground again. When her drive mode ran out, Wendy got down on one knee. Huff, huff. Damn, this was a tough fight, Wendy thought as she looked at Sharia's downed body again. "At least I won," he said. Mado started to say, "Sharia's out, and the winner is, but..." "Hold it." Wendy yelled, and to Wendy's and her team's shock, Sharia got back up and all her wounds were gone. "Gomen. It took longer than I thought for me to heal from those wounds. I have to say, Wendy, you almost got me with that, but this isn't over yet," Sharia said. Gray said, "Damn, what a girl." Natsu was shocked and asked, "What's up with her?" Lucy felt bad for Wendy and told her, "All the damage Wendy did is gone." Leon said, "Sorry, Fairy Tale, but Wendy has no chance of winning." Wendy, Dorenbolt thought before someone bumped into him accidentally and apologized. He turned around to say it didn't matter and was surprised to see who had bumped into him. "Mistogen? Wendy, be careful, someone with ties to Zeref is here." Jelal and his friends had been watching the games from afar, but as soon as Wendy's match started and they felt the evil energy in the stadium, Jelal ran back in. "Wendy, you can stop now. I know you can't heal your wounds as quickly as I can, and I like a good fight as much as anyone else, but beating someone for no reason is not love at all," he said. Wendy just started to laugh. Sorry, but your information is out of date. Suddenly, Wendy was surrounded by a light green aura, and the audience and Sharia watched in amazement as all of her injuries disappeared. Wendy said, Tenryu no Shozen. You can heal your injuries, too? Sharia asked in shock. Wendy said, that's right. I learned this when I was training for the GMG. Wendy nodded. Sugoi, your sensei really did prepare you for everything. Yes, he did. This fight only has 2 minutes left. Can the winner be determined before time runs out? Well, Wendy, why don't we try everything? Wendy nodded. Agreed. Then, the two started to gather a lot of air and start taking it into their bodies. Soon, a fiery red aura wrapped itself around Sharia. Her eyes and hair both turned bright red. God Force, Sharia said in a whisper. This is my full power, Wendy. Do you have anything to match that? Wendy asked with a smirk. Yes, I do. Suddenly, Wendy was surrounded by a pinkish-white aura, and her hair turned bright pink and shaggy. Her eyes turned blood red with slits, her whisker marks became clearer, her arms became more scaly like a dragon's, feathers grew on her wrists and ankles, and she got a pair of wings on her back. Dragon Force. Wendy yelled, and the wind around the arena picked up the extra energy. No one could say anything. Wendy has Dragon Force? Natsu yelled out in total shock. More than that, Natsu. She's free to use it. Gray called him back. But that's a crazy idea. Natsu could only do it by eating that lacrima with a Therion in it. Urza thought out loud in shock. Wendy, I can't believe you were able to do this at such a young age. Natsu had to ask for help twice before he could change, and even then, his transformation wasn't as good as yours. You've changed, Wendy. Mistogen praised Wendy because he was truly amazed by her strength. She can summon dragons. I just can't believe it. Yukino was surprised. Sugoi Wendy. Katya and a number of other people said. Wendy, you've changed so much in such a short time. Makarov said. Naruto's training was really intense. Mavis giggled. She is as strong as a dragon. Gajeel said this as he stared at Wendy in shock. Well, then it looks like our little Wendy isn't so little anymore, Mirajane said in a fake sad voice. They're growing up so fast. Mirajane fake cried. You and Natsu need to speed up or Wendy will leave you two in the dust. Laxus made fun of Gajeel, who was staring at him. Shut it. How can she have Dragon Force? Sting and Rogue both yelled at the same time. It looks like you were wrong to think too little of that girl, Rufus told him. I think it's safe to say that this girl could hurt our chances of winning now. Before she looked at her team, Minerva said. We'll need to keep an eye out for her. She is strong like a dragon. When they were so young. Demaria said with a tone of surprise. I think she is better than everyone else. I think her own father is one of them. Irene said with a serious look on her face. Go get them, my sweet Wendy, he said. Anna was proud of herself. Are you ready to stop? Wendy asked. Sharia nodded. Yeah. It looks like the girls think their next move will end this. WHO will come out on top? Then Sharia jumped into the air and was surrounded by black and violet winds that turned into a bird. Soon, Wendy started to gather the winds around her as the air around her started to heat up and then burst into flames. But the temperature kept going up, and the flames turned blue. Wendy jumped into the air as the flames wrapped around her and made a shape that looked a lot like Grandini. Metsujin Ogi, Sky Attack. Metsuryu Ogi, Brave Bird. When the two attacks hit each other, there was a huge explosion that filled the arena. It's over. The winner will be the last mage standing. After the smoke cleared, there was only one girl left. Sharia was on the ground when it was over, but Wendy was still standing. At last. Wendy Marvell gets the win. She didn't do it. Lucy called out. Sugoi Wendy. Natsu and Gray said. You were great, Imouto, he said. Urza had an idea. Wendy won. Mirajane yelled with happiness. Kana said as she drank her keg of beer, never had any doubt. She did her part, and now it's up to the rest of us and her team to do the same. Gildart said. Wonderful, Wendy. Jura said as he remembered the first time he met Wendy. She used to be a shy girl who stuttered, and now look at her. You've grown up to be a great girl and a great witch, Wendy Marvell. Feel good about yourself. You have worked hard for this win. Wendy, I'm so glad you won. Irene said. Well done, my daughter. Anna said as she wiped away a few tears. Her face showed that she was proud and happy. Wendy finally got tired of all the shouting and got down on her knees. Wendy, 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 Wendy. She muttered, I won. She finally got a big smile on her face as tears ran down her cheeks. I really did win. Then she felt a warmth spread over her. Great job, partner, you deserve to win, said Dark. She told the dark part of herself, thank you. Wendy, you were great, someone said. Sharia was smiling at Wendy when she turned around. So were you. Wendy gave her praise. Sharia tried to stand up, but she fell down again. Thanks. I'd give you a hug, but I can't move right now, she said. Hold on, Wendy said as she got up, shaking. Let me help. Before she could finish, she fell again. Wendy was called out in worry. But someone caught her before she or anyone else could do anything. When Wendy looked up and saw her father, she was shocked. He touched her on the head and said, Kiraja. Wendy was surrounded by a green aura, and all of her wounds were gone. He then poked Sharia with his finger. Kiraja, as all of her wounds had healed. Then Sharia jumped up, feeling as good as new. She then gave Naruto a bow. She thanked him by saying, thank you, sir. Naruto nodded, then looked at Wendy and gave her a kind pat on the head. You did well, my dear. Wendy gave him a big, tight hug and then kissed him on the cheek. Something that surprised everyone in the room, her team coming toward her, and made two people frown in envy. Wendy saw that her father was wearing a dark blue hooded jacket, a black shirt, black pants, and combat boots with a military look. He still wore the rings and earrings from when they were in the carnival. He also wore a green necklace and black and gold Ray-Ban aviator sunglasses that she was used to seeing him wear. Think of Nero's new clothes in Devil May Cry 5, with a few extras. Wendy. Everyone was running toward her when she turned around. Hey, everyone, said Wendy in a nice way. Who is this, Wendy? Why are you standing so close to him? Urza asked with doubt. Naruto just smiled and looked at his daughter. You didn't tell them much, my Chibiheim, he teased as Wendy looked at him with disapproval. I told them a little bit about you, but I didn't tell them how you look. I didn't want to give anything away. Wendy told me. Everyone in Fairy Tale's eyes got bigger. Hold on, Chibiheim. She said. Lucy began. But that means. Gray said with the same tone of shock. No way. Natsu was also surprised. Urza couldn't say a word because she finally knew who this man was. Then Wendy got her team's and the whole stadium's attention. Ahem. Everyone, I'd like to officially introduce you to my father, Naruto Marvell. Wendy said with a big grin on her face. Naruto took off his sunglasses and showed everyone his deep blue, slit-free eyes. Like the other Slayers, he can control them when he has them. He just hasn't done it in a while. Fairy Tail, it's nice to finally meet you in person. Everybody yelled. Everyone was staring at the man, who Wendy says is her father, with wide open mouths. Well, they weren't all like that. Several women and men in the crowd turned red as they looked at the person in front of them with lust. Oh my. Several people in the crowd thought, he's cute, hot. Oh my, he's just as handsome as you said, Anna-sama and Irene-sama, and I'm quite jealous of you, Demaria said. Anna and Irene laughed as their cheeks turned a little red. Anna said, thanks, Demaria. You're right, we are lucky. You might have some trouble in the future, though, she said. Anna looked at her with confusion. What do you mean? Demaria points in a certain direction, and what the two women see makes them sweat. Sayla stood near the balcony, staring down at Naruto while drool dripped from her mouth. Several of the other women saw this, and when they did, they smiled in a very evil way. It's time to have fun. They said, oh, Sayla. In a singing voice. Sayla woke up from her trance before her face turned bright red and her teammates laughed. Wow. You got it bad, Sayla-chan. Miliana giggled. Brandish said, I'm surprised you haven't jumped off the booth and run towards Naruto-sama. Riza joked, our mistresses might need to keep an eye out for possible kidnappings. Sayla, who was embarrassed, squeaked, everyone, please. Anna went over to Sayla and gave her a gentle hug. Anna said with a smile, Yosh, Sayla. We told you there was nothing to be embarrassed about. I told you we have no problem introducing you to Naruto-kun, remember? I'm glad to see your reaction. I'm sure Naruto will respond well to your courtship. Fair warning, your first time will be a long one. Irene and I will help you if you want us to. Sayla yelled, Anna-sama. As steam came out of her head. Of course, we promised to help her find the man of her dreams. After all, the more the merrier. Sayla just put her head in her mistress's flower to block out the laughter and hide how embarrassed she was. He's a lot younger than I thought he would be, Mira said. Kana replied, looks can be deceiving. He's probably around Gildarts's age. Gajeel joked, if he cut his hair a little shorter, he could pass for Laxus's twin. Laxus replied with a dry, no thanks. He didn't mind being an only child at all. Gildarts thought, you guys don't realize how much more complicated this guy really is. So you have come at last. What do you want to do now? Makarov thought this as he looked at Naruto with a critical eye. Naruto Ni-chan, Mavis thought to herself. So that's him, huh? Lily asked with a skeptical look. Yes, that's him. That's Wendy's dad, Naruto Marvel, Carla said with a frown. Happy said, he doesn't look tough. Natsu could beat him. His friend laughed at his claim. Katya and Momon were confused as they looked at the man. They didn't know what to think. Even so, he must be very strong based on what they have seen so far. They looked at Eclair to see what she thought, but they were surprised to see that she was shaking. Katya was worried as she grabbed the arm of her friend. Eclair? Eclair looked at Katya and seemed to come out of her trance. Katya is still concerned about her friend. Are you okay? It looked like you were having some kind of traumatic flashback. Eclair turned her head away. Sorry, I'm fine. I just feel like I've met this man before, but I don't remember where. This made Momon and Katya look at each other before they turned their attention back to Eclair. Do you think you two have something in common? Eclair shook her head no. I don't know. I'd have to ask him directly. The three of them go back to the arena, but Eclair keeps wondering why Naruto looks familiar and why she feels so scared when she looks at him. Back on the stadium, FTA still stares at Naruto in shock. Everyone, except Wendy, thought, he's so young. Urza was shocked, confused, and feeling a lot of other things as she looked at Naruto. This is my dad, I said. He's not quite what I thought he would be. He looks almost as old as me, but that might be because he kills dragons. How come he looks even younger than Ka-san? I want to talk to him about so many things. Where has he been all this time? Did he know Irene and Anna were still living? Why didn't ever look for them? Will I be the kind of daughter he wants? No one did anything but stare, except for one fire mage who lunged at Naruto and hit him with a fiery haymaker. Everyone stopped what they were doing and gasped in shock. Natsu! Yelled a few mages. Urza yelled, Natsu, what the hell are you doing? Have you finally lost your mind, Flamebrain? Gray yelled. I just want to fight this guy, Natsu said. All the silence was driving me crazy. Lucy screamed, are you nuts? Do you want to fight him even after what Wendy told us about him? Did Natsu want to die so badly that he goes after anyone stronger than him? He can't be that tough if I manage to hit him, Natsu said. Wendy was covering her mouth when Natsu heard some giggling. I'm sorry to tell you this, Natsu, but you're going to have to do better than that, Wendy said before pointing back to her dad. When everyone looked back at Naruto after the attack, they were shocked to see that he had not moved at all. Hell, he didn't even look like he flinched. Natsu jumped back a few feet right away. Naruto just smiled at the fire mage. Nice hook, but you're weak. I've stood up to ice attacks that were hotter than that. What did you say? Yelled Natsu, who was angry. By now, everyone was very confused about what was going on, but they still kept listening. Wendy was amused by the way Sharia talked to Wendy. Natsu just lit his flame-filled fists on fire again. Natsu yelled, I'll show you some firepower. Don't start a fight with someone you can't beat, you stupid Natsu. Said Gray. Lucy yelled, why do you want to fight him? Because if I beat him, I'll be the best dragon, Natsu said, and he thought that was a good reason. Several of the fairy tale mages yelled, are you nuts? That's your reason for doing this? Even though it seemed like something Natsu would do right away. Naruto tried to hold it in until he snorted, but he couldn't. He couldn't help but start laughing so hard he couldn't stop. Natsu couldn't stand the laugh, so he yelled, what the hell is so damn funny? Naruto continued to laugh for a few more seconds before he stopped. Naruto smiled cheekily and said, "Sorry, it's just been a while since I heard a good joke like that. I haven't laughed that hard since my trip with Wendy, so thanks." Natsu gave the blonde-haired mage an angry look. Natsu yelled, "Don't make fun of me," as he ran at Naruto with his flaming fist cocked back. Karyu no Tekken, Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Karyu no Kajizume, Fire Dragon's Claw. Karyu no Saiga, Fire Dragon's Crushing Fang. Karyu no Yokugeki, Fire Dragon's Wing Attack. Karyu no Kenkaku, Fire Dragon's Sword Horn. Natsu kept throwing at Naruto every single spell he knew as a Dragon Slayer. If he couldn't hurt him by sneaking up on him, he'll have to use every spell he knows until one of them works. He finally jumps back as a fire and lightning aura wraps around his body. Ryu no Hoko, Lightning Flame Dragon's Roar. Roared Natsu as a huge stream of flames covered in electricity hit Naruto, causing a fire and lightning explosion. Lucy and a few other people yelled, "Natsu! Are you trying to kill him? There's no way something like that could beat Tu-san." Urza thought, Wendy's face shows that this won't bother him at all. "Ha, ha, ha. Take that, you jerk," Natsu said as he kept breathing hard. Urza was about to reprimand the fire mage when everyone heard a strange sound. When they looked over, they were shocked to see that the column of fire and lightning was getting smaller and smaller, as if it were being pulled into a vortex. The column kept getting smaller until the person who did it could be seen. It was Naruto, and he sucked in all the fire and lightning without stopping until he took a big gulp of the last of it. He let out a happy sigh and then looked at Natsu. Kid, you've got heart. You fight without fear, which is brave but stupid." Chapati yelled, "I can't believe what I'm seeing." Naruto Marvel took the fire lightning attack without any consequences. That makes this person a Dragon Slayer, too. Gray was shocked and said, "No way." He took all of that without doing any damage, Lucy said in fear. "This is just like Hades all over again. However, it's a lot worse than that. Hades did something, even if it was small, to hurt us." Urza thought, but Tu-san is acting like nothing happened. Naruto told Natsu, who was growling, "You have spirit, Natsu, but you still don't have the power to be a true Dragon Slayer." Natsu roared as he was again surrounded by a fire and lightning aura, "You want power? I'll show you power." Then, Natsu made a big sphere out of the lightning flame by focusing it. Naruto just grinned. Using two different things at the same time is impressive, but it's not hard to do again. Naruto then surprised Natsu and everyone else in the room when he was surrounded by a blue and white flame aura with black wisps and blue lightning dancing around it and his body. No one could say anything at all. "I can't believe it. Naruto's lightning flame mode is just like Natsu's." Makarov said, "I can't believe he copied Natsu's form. After only seeing it once?" said Lucy and Gray. "I can't believe it. It was so easy for him to use the form," a shocked Laxus said. "Sugoi, Tu-san," Urza said. Natsu was shocked and then gave Naruto a defiant look. "Let's see what you got, you bloody copycat." Ryu no Cone. Lightning Flame Dragon's Brilliant Flame. Natsu yelled as he fired his sphere attack. Naruto just smiled as he pulled his fist back and the blue flame and lightning gathered in the palm of his hand. Hakai Ryu no Hoken. Destruction Lightning Flame Dragon's Breakdown Fist. Naruto shouted as he fired a huge fist made of fire and lightning. In just a few seconds, the two attacks hit each other. The result came right away. Naruto's Hoken attack tore right through Natsu's cone and then sped toward him as a bright explosion engulfed him. "Natsu!" shouted his whole guild. Natsu was pushed back a few feet. Natsu held his body in pain and said, "Arg." Several people in his guild yelled, "Natsu, what's wrong? What the hell? It burns. This fire really burned me." Everyone in the room was shocked by this. There was a fire that could hurt Natsu, who fought fire dragons. Naruto thought, that's what happens when you're exposed to the flame version of my attribute, which is also like black hellfire. He then pointed at Natsu and said, "Kiraja." Natsu was surrounded by a familiar green aura that healed all of his injuries from the attack. Natsu looked to see his injuries gone. He gave Naruto a hard look, and Naruto just raised an eyebrow and asked, "What?" As he got up, Natsu let out a growl. He was about to attack Naruto again, but Gray came out of nowhere and hit him on the head. "Ow! Why did you do that, you jerk?" Natsu yelled. You're a dumbass, Pinky, for getting into a fight with Wendy's dad. You wanna go, Elsa? Roared Natsu. Bring it. Smack. Both of you, be quiet. Urza hissed at the two. Natsu rubbed his head and then gave Naruto a mean look. How the hell did you burn me? Fire isn't supposed to hurt me, but yours did. Neither Thorin nor Saphira had the fire element, so why do you? And why the hell does it feel familiar? What the hell is your attribute? Naruto just laughed when Natsu was upset. It made him miss the old days. Okay, I'll play along. As you know, Thorin is the black energy dragon. Like him, I am able to manipulate, absorb, generate, and emit Eternano in its purest form. Sage, Aura, and Enchantment Dragonslayers are also able to do these things because they are subclasses of Energy Dragonslayer magic. Now, every mage absorbs the raw Eternano particles around us, but the body does it slowly and then turns it into. Everyone in the stadium, including Natsu, opens their eyes wide in shock or horror. Everyone yelled, "What? You're a soul slayer? Does that mean you eat souls like Saphira?" Naruto gave a small smile and shook his head. You're wrong about one thing, Naruto said to Natsu. Saphira never absorbed or controlled souls or spirits. It went against her kind nature, bless her heart. He then smiled in an ominous way at Natsu. Unfortunately, I'm not as kind as my mother, and I took her magic further than she ever did. I then combined my two Slayer magics to make my own original Dragon Slayer attribute. Now, Natsu, when I fought a fire dragon and killed it, I absorbed its soul, and something interesting happened. Everyone leaned in to hear the exciting story. I was able to use Fire Dragon Slayer magic, so Igneal helped me learn how to control fire with his paw. What? Igneal taught you? Natsu said in shock. Taught is a bit of a stretch. More like tutored, but you can call it what you want. The same thing happened with Metallicana, Grandini, Weissalogia, Skiadrum, and several other dragons. Now, Natsu, what do you get when you mix Eternano with several other attributes, elements? Natsu, Urza, Jelal, Makarov, and several others paled as they realized what Naruto was saying. Natsu yelled, Etherion? You're a dragon slayer named Etherion? Etherion? Shouted a few others. But wait, doesn't that mean that you can't get any kind of magical harm? Lucy asked. Not exactly. I can still get hurt, but it's not serious. So unless you're a high-tier dragon or a being with a similar or higher status, you won't be able to hurt me. I renamed them Hakai, but the effects are still the same. I just thought Hakai was a better name. Everyone just stood there in shock. Naruto not only killed dragons, but his ability made it impossible for any normal mage to hurt him. Then Naruto gave him a sly smile and said, a power fit for the Dragon Slayer King, wouldn't you say, Natsu? Natsu got back on his feet and lit his fists on fire. Natsu again? Everyone yelled. If you're Anetherion Dragon Slayer, then I can kick your ass since I've eaten Etherion before. Natsu yelled as he lunged, even though his teammates tried to stop him. Naruto let out a sigh of frustration. Baka. You were only able to do that because Igneal probably worked his tail off turning those useless attributes into useful ones. For you, it's fire. You would be dead if it weren't for that. Naruto tilted his body to the side to let Natsu pass. Naruto raised his arm, and with one chop to the neck, Natsu lost his aura and fell unconscious to the ground. Almost everyone's eyes flew out of their heads. Gray said, he beat Natsu in one attack. Lucy asked out loud, just how strong is this guy? Makarov muttered, I don't think this is the best he can do. I can't believe it, the Dragon Slayer King exists, Sting said in shock. His power is just as scary as I thought it would be, Rogue said. Minerva thought, interesting. Happy yelled, Natsu. Carla and Lily said, happy wait. Naruto grabbed Natsu by the collar of his shirt and lifted him up. He then started using his senses on Natsu's body without anyone knowing. Grandini's soul is in the same state as Igneal's. END is still sleeping in the demon seed, but I can feel that the seed is starting to break apart. Some of the first ones must have happened because he met Lullaby and Deloria. He must have felt something when he met other demons of Zeref. Then she might have broken again when she met Zeref and almost got killed by his curse. There's also a chance that my presence caused another break. Most likely, his fight with Hades Precht caused the last one. This fool thinks that his friends helped him get through Grimoire Law, but that's not the whole story. Grimoire Law saved him because it is a spell based on Zeref's magic. Something that shouldn't make him feel anything. He probably took it in instead. It won't be long before the seed sprouts. I hope I can help Natsu get a handle on that power. Naruto then threw him over to Gray, who caught him easily. Then, he saw something. Wait. I can tell he has the power of a person who kills demons, but how? In Fury, people who kill demons are very rare. Wait a second, that cold power feels like holy shit. Naruto's eyes got bigger as he realized how strong that power was. It was the Ice Devil Queen's power. Ha 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 ha. I can't believe that the Ice Queen got married and had a baby. Oh, things are getting a lot more interesting. Then Naruto turned to look at Urza. I can sense her inner dragon. So, Irene let Urza use her magic to kill dragons. Hey, as I've already said, Fairy Tail really knows how to make me laugh. Then Gray hit Natsu in the head. Ow. What the hell are you doing, you ice prick? Smack. Ow. Natsu. Natsu stopped when he turned around and saw that Urza was angry. It looks like I'll have to punish you later for some things. Natsu was shivering, and so were a few other people who felt sorry for him. She said, "Stay," in a cold voice as Natsu and Gray furiously nodded. Urza turned to Wendy and saw something that made her sweat drop. Wendy and Sharia were eating popcorn and pop while sitting on 2 bench seats and laughing. How in the hell did she get all of that? Wendy saw how Urza was looking at her, so she gave her a soft smile and a nod. Urza nodded back, then turned and started walking towards Naruto. Urza? Lucy asked. Stay, I need to say something. Urza then walked over to her father until she was only a few feet away. Wendy thought, good luck, Oni-chan. Urza. Naruto. The two kept looking at each other. Even though they didn't say anything, their eyes told a different story. Different feelings flashed before their eyes. Urza thought that her eyes showed anger, worry, confusion, sadness, hope, joy, and happiness. There was pain, regret, shame, pride, hope, and joy in Naruto's eyes. Both of them kept quiet until Urza spoke up. I talked to Irene Belsirian, Urza said. She saw her father's eyes change from one emotion to another as he spoke. All of them were very much like the ones he had when he looked at her. Naruto finally spoke up, saying softly, I see. What did she say to you? She told me about how she and Anna-san met you. That you and Anna-san were both dragon slayers. Some of the terrible things you had to go through in the war. She told me a little bit about your fall into darkness. She told me what she did after you and Anna-san were separated and how Anna helped her through the hardest times. Naruto nodded. Urza? When Urza turned around, Lucy, the rest of team, and Mato all had very confused looks on their faces. Wendy was calm, but Sharia looked very interested in what was going on. Gray asked, Urza, what's going on? Yes, but why are you talking like you know him, and who is Irene? Asked Lucy. I think I know the answer, a voice I knew said. Everyone turned around to see Irene, who was always beautiful, walking through the arena. Everyone was amazed by how beautiful everything was. Well, most of them were, since some of them had passed out from a nosebleed. Wendy chirped, Ohio, Auntie. As she ran up to the red mage and gave her a tight hug. Irene said, Ohio. I'm so glad to see you again, Wendy, as she happily hugged Wendy back. I'm not the only one who's happy, Wendy said as Irene turned to look at her husband. Naruto. It's been a long time, she whispered. He replied in the same soft tone, it's been far too long, my Crimson Queen. Excuse me. Everyone turned around to see Mato scratching the back of his head. Irene laughed and said, I'm sorry to cut in, but this seems like a pretty private conversation. Could you explain what's going on? I'm Irene Belsirian, one of the twin guild masters of Mermaid Heel. Please forgive me. Gray and Natsu yelled, wait. You're Mermaid Heel's master? And why do you look like Urza? Lucy asked. Irene was happy. Of course, Urza is my daughter, she said. Everyone in the stadium screamed in surprise. Your daughter? Gray and Natsu both yelled. Wait. If you're her mother Thena. Lucy yelled and pointed at Naruto with a shaking finger. Don't say you're. Why don't you just say it, Naruto? Irene smiled and said. Naruto looked back at Urza, whose hopeful eyes were on him. Yes, Urza. I am your dad. Everybody yelled. Ladies and gentlemen. Today has been filled with unexpected surprises and it seems they're just gonna keep coming. I don't think this is true. I never thought Urza would be his daughter out of everyone. What comes next? Lucy? Oh, Rokudame, I think you're going to regret what you just said. Mavis had an idea. Oh my, said a stunned Mira. And things are getting more interesting, said Laxus in an odd way. Gildarts thought, you have no idea. Wait, Wendy. Was Urza one of the sisters you mentioned? Wendy nodded. Yup. Wait, so you really do have a harem? Natsu exclaimed. Everyone yelled, wait, what? Natsu, what are you talking about? Gray and Lucy were yelling. Remember when I asked Wendy if her dad had been married more than once because she had two half-sisters? Natsu said something as the eyes of the people on his team were about to pop out of their sockets. Wait, you mean? Lucy started, her face turning red. Huh, I'm surprised Natsu was the first one to figure that out. Naruto said out loud, ignoring the pink-haired mage's angry shout of, screw you, asshole. That's right. I'm married to more than one woman. My third wife is Irene. At this point, they've gone so low that the audience might lose their jaws. Irene giggled. Hee hee hee. It makes sense, since no woman could handle you alone for long without breaking. Even more so with your incredible stamina and the way you use your hands and tongue. Auntie, Ka-san. Yelled Wendy, who was embarrassed, and Urza was shocked. She turned around and said, huh? To see almost everyone in the stadium passed out from a bloody nose. Anna could only shake her head and laugh at how frustrated she was. Naruto just gave her a blank stare. Irene could only rub the back of her head in shame. Oops. Womanizing playboy. Carla had a cynical thought. When Naruto turned toward her, she gave a little jump. Carla, it's not smart to form opinions about people you don't know. What did she do right now? Wendy asked with a sneer. Before Naruto showed up in front of Wendy and flicked her head, Carla jumped at the sound. Ow. Wendy said before giving her dad a dirty look. What in the hell, Tu-san? Wendy, you need to let this go. Her words were rude, but the two of you have been through too much to let one fight tear you apart. She hasn't said sorry to me yet. Carla looked down as Wendy replied. You've also been staying away from her. So how could she say she was sorry? Wendy did nothing but sigh and turn her head. Naruto let out a sigh before he spoke again. Wendy, give her at least a chance. Wendy, you have good people looking out for you, and you don't know when they might leave your life. When Wendy turned around, she saw that her father was sad. She really didn't like seeing him look like that. He had already been through so much, and she didn't want to add to it. She sighed and finally said, fine. I'll do my best to listen to her, Daddy. He smiled and then ruffled her hair. That girl is mine. Wendy moved his hand away as she muttered under her breath, making Naruto, Irene, and Urza laugh. Naruto then went back to looking at Urza. Anyway, Urza. I think this needs to stop. But Urza was about to argue because she still had so many questions and things she wanted to learn. Before giving her a note, Naruto put up his hand. Meet there at 9 o'clock. I will try to answer your questions as best as I can. You can trust me as much as a dragon. Then Naruto looked at his wife. Irene-chan, will I see you there? Irene nodded. Yes, my husband, you will. Anna will also be there. Naruto jerked back, which made Irene and Wendy frown sad faces and Urza look worried about how her father reacted. Anna's husband's reaction made her sad, but they didn't know it. Carla was suspicious, but after what happened with Wendy, she knew better than to say anything. Naruto, you have to go and see her. You were missed. We miss him a lot. Don't run away again, please. After taking a deep breath, Naruto looked at Irene and said, I promise. Irene nodded. Then Naruto opened a door. Okay, it's time for me to leave. Wendy, Urza. I will see you soon. Wait. Naruto turned to see Natsu looking at him. He said, I have one question, and Naruto raised one eyebrow. Which one is? Why haven't you quit Acnologia yet? With your power, it would be easy for you to kill him. Then why don't you? Naruto groaned. He really wondered if one of them would ask him this or a similar question. No, Natsu, it's not that easy. More likely, it's because I can't kill him. We are linked in some way. We can't get away. Two people who are like twins. This made Natsu and the other fairy tale mages who were still awake frown in surprise. What was he trying to say? Was he somehow cursed by Acnologia? That would explain why he liked him so much. Some people, like Urza, Laxus, and the mages of Crime Sorcier, heard more in what he said, but they didn't know what it meant. What do you mean? Were Igneal and the other dragons really there? In a few days, you'll get it. I can promise you that you will know where the dragon is. Then, everything will be clear. As Naruto went through the portal and disappeared, he said. Everyone, one of the most exciting days of the GMG is over. What other exciting things can we expect from the guilds? Just wait and see. The GMG will tell you in the next 2 days. Laxus saw his Thunder Legion waiting for him as guilds and regular people were leaving the stadium. Is there something wrong? He asked. Bixlo had something to talk to you about. Laxus's eyebrow went up. How are you? Before he spoke, Bixlo looked a bit nervous. I kind of used my magic on Naruto while he was in the arena? Laxus found Bixlo's answer interesting. So then, what did you see? Well, the souls I've seen look like people most of the time. Mirajane and her siblings were the only ones I ever noticed being different, and I think that was because they had magic. Buddha. Laxus cocked his head. But? I saw that Naruto's, Wendy's, and Irene's souls were not shaped like people, but like dragons. Isn't it possible that's because they're dragon slayers? Evergreen asked because it seemed obvious that that was the answer. The man shook his head. I thought the same thing, but Laxus's soul was never shaped like a dragon. The same was true for Natsu and Gajeel. I did notice that something was wrong with them, though. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but I swear I saw another soul inside of our 3 dragon slayers. What do you think, Laxus? Freed said yes. Should we let the boss know? Ever asked. Laxus thought about what to do. He thought he knew why Naruto's soul was in the shape of a dragon, but he wanted to talk to his grandpa about it. He might also know something about the second soul. I'll talk to Gramps about this, but you 3 please don't talk about it, okay? We don't want rumors going around. Have you thought about this, Laxus? Freed said yes. Does this have anything to do with Naruto being a 4th-generation dragon slayer? Ever asked. I think I know what to do, but I won't know until tonight. If I don't say anything, it means I already know the answer and can't give it to you. Understood? Hi, Laxus. That night, later. Laxus is sitting by a fountain and thinking about everything that went on today. Today has been harder than it should have been, he said, turning his head when he heard footsteps coming toward him. Makarov and Gildarts did it. Hey, Gramps, you old man. They said, Laxus. Laxus said with a smirk, so you want to know how I got my partner? This made both Gildarts and Makarov laugh. As interesting as that story might be, there are more important things going on, Makarov said. Laxus, what did Ivan ask of you? Laxus sighed before he answered. He kept bothering me about where this thing called the Lumen Histoire was. Makarov sighed and said, what a bothersome child. He or she is always looking into things that should be left alone. Makarov shook his head when Laxus asked, what exactly is the Lumen Histoire? Makarov told Laxus, I can't tell you. Only the guild master and the person I've chosen to take my place are allowed to know. Laxus looked at his grandfather to see what he thought. Fine. I don't really care. It's your business. But he said one thing about it that kept bugging me, he said. He called it the fairy tale's darkness. A voice said, that's not true. Lumen Histoire is fairy tale's light. When Mavis Vermilion came into view, the 3 men all turned around. Shodemea. Makarov began. Take it easy, Rokudame. That's all I'm going to say. Gildarts asked, but how did Ivan find out about it? Makarov said, he probably read about it in the secret files in the guild's library. Laxus said, there's also a chance that Hades told someone about it. After all, he was the second master of the guild. That's a good chance, but I don't think Precht would leave with that information, because he knew how dangerous it would be if it got out. But I can't be sure either way. I was a fool for not keeping a closer eye on Ivan, and it cost me my daughter-in-law's life, Makarov said in a sad tone. Don't worry about it, Grandpa. My grandfather made his stupid decisions on his own. If anyone is to blame, it's him. I'm not free of that guilt, because I was the one who nominated Precht. If I had paid more attention, I might have seen the darkness in his heart, a darkness that spread and hurt many other people. Mavis soon had tears in the corners of her eyes, and the three of them were stunned. She started crying quietly, and the men had no idea how to comfort her. Makarov waved his arms and yelled, "Shodem, please don't cry." She said with a lot of force, "I'm not crying, even though it was a lie." The four men didn't know what to do until they heard laughing from above. "You've always been a crier, Mavis-chan," Naruto said. The four of them looked up and saw him sitting and looking down at them. Everyone said, "Naruto." The blonde mage then jumped off and landed on the ground in a graceful way. He then got up and walked forward. The three mages put themselves on guard, but they weren't mean to the blonde king, who kept walking until he was right in front of Mavis. He raised his hand and hit her on the head without missing a beat. Ouch. What was that for? Mavis yelled. So you'll stop trying to solve all the world's problems. Mavis kept staring at her until she sighed and put her head down. She spoke softly and said, "Fishy ni-chan." Naruto let out a small sigh of irritation. "I see you haven't stopped with that oomph," Naruto started to say, but Mavis wrapped a tight hug around him and cut him off. Naruto looked down as she cried into his shirt and could see that she was shaking. Naruto patted her head and said, "Baka, baka, 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 ni-san." His eyes softened as he spoke. "Gomen, Imoudo for hurting you, ni-san," Naruto said in a quiet voice that only she could hear as he hugged her back. The other three people just watched in silence because they didn't want to ruin the sweet moment. Then Naruto turned his head sideways. "You can come out now." Jelal, Ultir, and Merity came out of the shadows. Makarov asked, "How long have you been there?" "We had just arrived when he showed up," Ultir said. "Who's the little girl?" she asked Mavis. Mavis said, "Wait, you can see me?" The three wizards shook their heads. Jelal asked, "Why wouldn't we?" Mavis looked at her older brother. She asked, "What did you do?" He asked in a teasing way, "Have you forgotten who my strict mother is?" Mavis blinked twice before she turned red in shame. She said, "Oh, right, that makes sense." Usually, Mavis is a spirit that only fairy tale members can see. I am an exception to this rule, and thanks to my magic, all of you can see her now, even if it's only temporary. Naruto then snapped his fingers, and the area around the 8 was covered in runes with seals for privacy and silence. Then Naruto walked over to the fountain, sat down, and looked at the crowd. "Well, I'm sure you all have questions, so feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer them." "Right now, we're alone," Naruto said, and Makarov nodded his thanks. Makarov looked at Naruto and said, "Well, I guess we should introduce ourselves, right? Naruto, or should I say Acnologia, it's nice to finally meet you." Three of the crime sorcier mage's eyes widened, but Laxus's eyes narrowed. The three of them yelled, "W what? Makarov-sama, what are you talking about? How can he be Acnologia?" Naruto just laughed. "Well, then, I guess we should do proper introductions," Naruto said. He then called up his wings, which made the eyes of the three independent mages go wide. "My name is Naruto Marvel, but the rest of the world knows me as Acnologia, the Black Dragon of the Apocalypse, and the one true Dragon King." Jelal and his friends took fighting positions, which just made Naruto laugh again. When they looked at the other four, they couldn't believe how calm they were. Even though Laxus's eyes were still narrowed. "What in the hell are you doing? How can you all be so calm?" Makarov waved his hand at them and said, "Calm down. He's not our enemy." The three mages looked at Makarov as if he had grown two heads. "Are you nuts? After all he did to your guild, you expect us to believe that he is not our enemy?" All three of them yelled. "Naruto hasn't done anything lately to show that he is an enemy. If he were an enemy, he wouldn't have helped Lucy or trained Wendy. Do I also need to remind you three of what Wendy told us about him?" The three paused. Wendy said that her father was really doing everything he could to make up for what he had done wrong in the past. With the blood oath, he put himself in danger. But did that mean that they could trust him? From the way the other four looked, it was clear that they wanted to hear what Naruto had to say. The three of them finally decided to relax their positions, but they were still on guard in case Naruto did something. Naruto just laughed at everything. You guys know that nothing you could come up with could stop me, right? Ultir replied with a determined look, no matter what, we would rather die than give in to you. Hey, you really are just like your mother, Naruto thought as he watched Ultir's eyes widen in shock and then close again. Ultir said in a threatening way, how the hell do you know my mother? Your mother and I knew each other well many years ago. I swear that if you tell me you're my father, I'll... She started to say more, but Naruto waved his hand before she could finish. Don't worry. It would be funny to have another pretty girl as a daughter, Ultir blushes, and a pretty granddaughter, Merity blushes, but I can assure you that we are not related by blood. Then how did you know about my mother? I met your mother while she was still upset about your supposed death. This was a little while before she got her first apprentice. I felt bad for her and helped her get back on her feet. We started talking and drinking together, but that ended when she gave her life to seal Deliora.
I see.
So, Makarov, I have to ask, Gildarts, when did you figure out who I am? I had my doubts when Gildarts told us about his meeting with you. Then Wendy's reaction to your arrival on the island, and then her explanation of you. We just put it all together, and Mavis confirmed it when we asked her privately. Naruto nodded.
I see.
Don't worry, Fishy Knee, you can trust them. When everyone heard Mavis call Naruto, Acnologia, Fishy Knee, they couldn't help but laugh. Naruto let out a sigh and then looked at Gildarts. You look healthy, Gildarts. How are your arm and leg? Naruto asked with a sly smile. Gildarts grumbled. He replied, fine.
No thanks to you.
Is that any way to thank me for getting you out of danger? Naruto asked in a hurt tone. Gildarts yelled at the blonde dragon king, gratitude? Motherfucker, you're the reason I needed help in the first place. Naruto replied, who was it that came into my territory, and what were you doing on MT? Zonia? Gildarts shut his mouth quickly. Wendy told me that you were on a 100-year quest that you had to complete by going to another country. So what were you doing on Zonia? Gildarts was getting nervous. When you first saw me, you got excited. That means that century quest has something to do with me or dragons in general. By the look on your face, I nailed it. Sorry, I can't tell you. Client and quest confidentiality, after all. Naruto narrowed his eyes, which made everyone a little nervous before he spoke again. Fine, but I'll find out sooner or later. You will talk eventually, he said before looking at Laxus. Well, Laxus, when did you start to doubt me? Same time when Wendy talked about you, but Bixlow confirmed what I already thought. This made Naruto raise an eyebrow. He might have looked into your soul and seen that it was shaped like a dragon. He also said Irene's soul was shaped like a dragon. Naruto hummed to confirm, But my question is, why is Wendy's soul like that, too? I think being a fourth generation means you can turn into a dragon, so if Wendy has a dragon soul, that means. Naruto said, your guess is right. Irene, Wendy, and I can all turn into dragons. That's the power of the fourth generation. Everyone was surprised because no one thought a dragon slayer could turn into a dragon. People had to wonder why Naruto and Irene turned into dragons. Even better, how did Wendy become one? Laxus asked Naruto, but how did Wendy become a fourth generation slayer? I doubt it's something simple. Naruto gave him a grim look. Naruto sighed and looked back at his audience before saying, no, it's not. I'm sure you know how. Feisty Wendy can be, especially after what happened with Carla, she said. Everyone shivered when she brought up that night. They'll never forget that night. Yeah, that's something you won't forget, she said. That's because of a power I gave her when she was young, but I didn't realize it had a bad side effect. It combined with her Dragon Slayer magic, giving her access to the dragon form. What makes Wendy different from other fourth-generation Slayers is that she still has access to her Dragon Slayer forms. Other fourth-generation Slayers lose these forms, but Wendy is the only one who still has them right now. This made everyone think. So, the fourth-generation Slayers are the strongest because they can change into a dragon, but they have to give up their other forms to get that power. Ultir asked, what about you? I no longer have access to my other forms, but I have found ways to make up for that. I'm sure Irene has done the same in her spare time. Wait, Bixlow also said that he saw another soul in Natsu, Gajeel, and Wendy. Do you? Laxus started, but Naruto cut him off with a look. Laxus, I would suggest that you and your team drop that subject and don't talk about it to anyone, especially the Dragon Slayers. Everyone figured out that this might have something to do with the dragons that went missing. So that would explain what Naruto did. He did say he'd tell them when GMG is over. So they had a few more days to wait. Naruto nodded as Makarov walked up to him. Fine. We'll find out eventually. I want to thank you, Naruto, for helping out my guildmates. There's no need to thank me. Lucy was being cheated out of her win, and I just stopped it. I guess that sounds like a caring parent to me, Makarov said with a sly smile. Naruto just laughed and snorted. You're right, someone said, and everyone's eyes got big. Wait, so, Makarov started, but Naruto nodded to confirm. Yes, Lucy is technically my third daughter. Technically? He told Makarov, she is my last descendant on her mother's side of the family. Makarov did a double facepalm and groaned in frustration. Why can't anything be simple with me and my guild? I just had to have the 3 daughters of Acnologia in my guild, he said in a frustrated tone. Naruto thought, Daughters of the Apocalypse sounds good. Makarov gave him a look that showed he wasn't amused. Naruto turned to Mavis and said, Fishy knee. Why did you change? I'm glad to see you again, but what happened? You can thank my father and the chronicler for that. This made everyone tilt their heads in confusion, and Mavis narrowed her eyes as she realized how serious this is. How did the chronicler actually get you to agree? Mavis asked. Even though Naruto would listen to the chronicler, given who he was, the chronicler would have to offer Naruto something to get him to change. When he said, the chronicler held an intervention for me with several people, including my father Thorin and my Alpha Hinata, his audience's eyes widened in shock. Basically, they told me to get off my rear end and stop worrying about all my problems so I could help humanity fight Zeref and the other dark forces that were hiding on Earthland. Merity asked, when you say, other dark forces, do you mean things like the demons and kaiju that keep showing up all over Fury and the rest of Earthland? Naruto nodded in confirmation. Yes, you humans can't even begin to understand the dark beings that live in this world. If you think Zeref is the worst thing on this planet, you have no idea of the horrors that came before him. Jelal asked, what about the person with a similar energy signature to Zeref who was in the stadium today, and what about that gate you told Wendy not to go through? Naruto let out a frustrated sigh. That person and the royal family are both idiots for messing with things they shouldn't, but you humans just like making trouble for yourselves. Fishy knee. He looked at Mavis. Is this the Gate of Eclipse? Yes. Mavis looked sad. Oh, dear. This is worse than I thought it would be. Can you tell me what the Eclipse Gate is? Makarov asked. Zeref built the Eclipse Gate hundreds of years ago. He made it so he can go back and forth in time. Everyone's mouths dropped when they heard this. Tea time travel. Zeref actually came up with a way to do something? Ultir asked, sounding shocked. Oh, that's not all. It really does work. What? What do you mean? Merity asked. Because I was there when some people used it 400 years ago, he said. Everyone, except Mavis, yelled, what? People from 400 years ago actually lived during this time? Who did that?
Naruto shook his head when Merity asked.
I'm sorry, I can't say that. Yet. How does it work? Jelal asked. It takes in magical energy from everything around it. But you need a lot of it to fill it up and power it so that you can use it. This could take a few years, depending on how much Eternano the user has access to. When everyone figured out what he meant, they all turned pale. Wait, you can't mean, Ultir started, but Naruto nodded. Yup. The royal family has been using the GMG to collect the magical energy needed to open the gate. Still, that's not enough. What exactly do you mean? Merity asked. The gate can only be opened with a certain set of keys, Naruto said. Wait, you don't mean the keys to heaven, do you? Jelal asked. Naruto nodded. Yes, I do. Wait. Can't we just get Lucy and Yukino out of here if the keys are needed? You can't. The gate will open on its own, and we can't stop it. But how? We can't stop it from opening now that we know this. What's to stop them from going after the two if we step in? You can't always watch them both. We need to make a decision right now. There are some things that will happen no matter how hard you try to stop them. If you do too much, the event might even be a sure thing to happen. So I need you all to stay alert and watch out for anything that could happen. But don't do anything right now, Naruto said. Before he spoke again, Makarov just looked at Naruto for almost a minute. Okay, Naruto. For now, we'll use your method, he said. Makarov? Yelled the three. As I've already said, Naruto has shown so far that he is on our side. We should at least assume the best about him. I have a question. Is anyone you know named Savitar? Laxus asked because it had been bothering him for a while about his sperm donor. Naruto nodded. Yeah, he's one of those nasty jerks I was talking about before. It looks like my stupid father made a deal with him. Now that I beat a subordinate, he might have a grudge against me. Naruto just facepalmed. Ah. Why can't people just leave things alone and forget about them? Really, Makarov, how did your son get so far away from you?
He asked in frustration.
Makarov let out a sad sigh. I don't have a clear answer for you. He was only driven by his own greed. I couldn't stop my son from turning into a terrible monster. It will always be one of the worst things I've ever done. Not protecting him from himself. Let's not forget how he tried to get information about the Lumen Histoire. Naruto replied, and Makarov's eyes got really big. How do Yoa? What do you know? It shouldn't surprise me that you already know about it. What don't you know? Would be a better question. I have a question for you, Naruto, Gildart said as he walked toward him. He asked, why did you teach Wendy how to kill? She asked me to make her into a shinobi, and I did. He asked, could you not have done it without that? That's not good enough, Makarov. Wendy was very clear that she wanted me to teach her everything I knew about being a ninja, so I did. I did everything I could to make sure Wendy doesn't end up like me, but I can only hope she makes good decisions and be there for her when she needs me. Gildarts asked, why do you kill? Because I like to kill. I am a sadistic monster. Naruto retorted. I already knew that. You understand what I meant. Gildarts shouted in a funny way. Please forgive me for trying to make you laugh. You should be the last person to do that. Gildarts called out. Naruto let out a sigh and then looked up at the night sky. When I used to be a shinobi, I went to war because I wanted to keep my home safe. To show them that I was the same as everyone else. That I wasn't a monster, which is funny now that I am one. The same things drove me to come to Earthland and fight in the war. I fought to protect my family and my kingdom. I killed a lot of people to keep those people safe. But as time went on, I stopped caring. I became used to killing. It happened more out of habit than anything else. Before, I would feel sad about the deaths of my friends, but soon I stopped feeling anything. After they died, the only thing I did for them was to give them a proper burial. This is what happens when a war lasts a long time. You start to see gray everywhere. But I did notice one change, and I buried it deep in my mind because I knew what it would mean to accept that truth. Then I found out that the people I trusted with my life, people who looked up to me as an older brother and who I thought of as family, had betrayed our cause. They went against everything we thought was right, either to help the other side or to satisfy their own greed. Several of our friends, teachers, and younglings would die because of this. Both dragons and people who were younger than Asuka. I found their bodies cut up and their faces scrunched up in terror. They were scared the whole time, and I didn't do enough to protect them. That day, something died inside of me, and I lost it. I was so angry that I couldn't forgive. I was only interested in one thing. Find those who have betrayed us and kill them all. Yes, I did find them. I then killed every single one of them without showing any kindness. I broke their bones, ripped out their organs, crushed their throats and necks, cracked open their heads, and ripped off their limbs. I burned, electrocuted, drowned, cut, crushed, stomped, and did anything else I could think of to make them feel my anger. I let out all of my anger on them, and I had no plans to stop, no matter how much they begged me to stop. I realized something while all this killing was going on. I enjoyed it. I enjoy killing. I like the thought of ripping and crushing my enemies to pieces and feeling happy as their bodies fall to the ground. It felt good to finally say this, and it made the massacre even more fun. Everyone looked shocked by what they heard, except Mavis, who had already heard this. But looking back, they could see Naruto's point of view. If they were in his place, would they have done anything different? And the truth is, they probably would react the same way. Hearing how the war slowly made him lose his humanity made them realize how broken Naruto was in general to be pushed to this point. War was a very cruel mistress who always left destruction in her wake. However, if I did that, my remaining friends would get tired of me. This would cause a split between me and them because they were afraid of what I could do. We were no longer friends on the battlefield. We were just people who agreed with each other. Then something happened that made it impossible for the bridge to be fixed. All because they wouldn't help when a good girl went missing. They wouldn't help me, so that poor girl had to die. In the end, I didn't fight for anyone but myself and my family. No longer did it matter to me if someone died. I just kept fighting again and again. But I realized that I no longer cared about this war, and I didn't want my children to grow up and join it. So I decided to put an end to this for good. I went to Zeref to get what I needed to stop the war, but that was a mistake. And the effects will stay with me for the rest of my life. How did things go after the war? Makarov asked. I mostly went into hiding so I could feel bad about myself. When I came out, I would kill and destroy everyone I could find. Why? He didn't know why Naruto would go into hiding only to come out 400 years later and destroy all the civilizations he had been hiding from. Because it was the last thing I had. I lost everything because I was too proud and didn't think things through. At least when I killed, I felt something, unlike when I was always empty. When I got pleasure from killing, I knew I was still alive and not just a walking corpse. Everyone, except Mavis, seemed to feel sorry for the blonde, but Naruto's look told them he didn't want their sympathy. He wasn't really any different from any other fairy tale mage. He would do anything to protect the people he cared about, but he was put in a sad situation where he couldn't win. No one really thought they could have lived like that for so long, especially not as long as Naruto did. Naruto, what do you want to do? Makarov asked. I want to be there for my girls. I want to make up for the times when they really needed me but I wasn't there. All I want is to be their dad. Naruto told them. You do know that you'll have to tell everything to Urza and Lucy, right? You may also have to deal with the fact that they may hate you, right? Makarov said this in a very serious way. Naruto must have known that it was possible that his kids would hate him. He might not be accepted by Urza and Lucy. The rest of the guild is also something to think about. From the way Naruto's eyes looked, he already knew this. Naruto let out a sad sigh and then looked at Makarov again. Yeah, I do know. Do you have plans to tell Urza everything? Gildarts asked. Naruto gave a head shake. No, not all. I won't tell her yet that my name is Acnologia. Urza and Lucy already have a lot on their plates. They don't need all of that extra stuff. Also, they'll need time to get used to the idea of me. Everyone else agreed. If Lucy and Urza found out about all this one day, it might be a lot to take in. At least Wendy had known for years that her father was Acnologia, and she had a few months to learn everything she could about him. This gave her time to deal with everything. Urza and Lucy won't have that luxury, which is a shame. When will you say who you really are? Jelal asked in an interested way. After the GMG, I'll tell you that and everything else. Naruto told them, and they all agreed that this was the best time to tell them everything. Makarov started to turn around before turning back to Naruto and saying, well, then I think it's time to end this conversation. This is what I'll say, Naruto. If you hurt my family, I won't forgive you. But you taught Wendy, saved Lucy, warned us about Ivan, and told us about this disaster and how it will happen and how the royal family will be involved. For everything, I thank you. Naruto nodded. You can stay with the rest of my guild if you want to. I'm sure it won't bother them. You can also stay near your daughters. Naruto gave Makarov a bow of thanks and said, you have my thanks, Makarov. Then Naruto turned off the rune wall. Naruto called out to Jelal as everyone started to leave. I know that you're seeing Urza. Jelal could feel the color leave his face. So, here's a tip. I care a lot about how happy my daughter is. You hurt her heart, and I'll hurt you slowly and painfully. Do you get it? Naruto asked as a white flash went through his eyes. Jelal quickly nodded, and then he and his team left. Naruto chuckled. He. I will never get tired of making people scared. Naruto looked at the four others. I'll see you in a while. Mavis ran in and gave Naruto a tight hug before he could leave. I'll see you soon, Nii-san. Naruto gives her a soft rub on the head as he gives her a hug back. Yes, I'm sorry. Real soon. I promise. And he really meant to keep it this time. Mavis finally let go as Naruto went through another black portal and was no longer there. Then she looked at her three friends. Alright, let's go back. I'm sure everyone is wondering where we are. Yeah, this has been a long night and I would like to get some sleep, Makarov said. Something tells me that this night has not even ended yet. Laxus replied in a quiet way. At 9 p.m., somewhere in the capital. Naruto is standing on a public balcony and looking up at the stars while looking down at a part of the city. He sighs with happiness. Even sadistic monsters like him can find peace in a scene like this. He wishes it would last forever, but he knows that nothing does. 2chan. Wendy and Urza are coming toward Naruto when he turns around. Hello to my chibi Haim, Benihime. Wendy and Urza got red in the face as they stared at their dad. 2san. Don't call me that. Please. Urza's voice was embarrassed as she yelled. Now you know what I'm thinking. No point in being upset. Once he chooses a name, you'll have to keep it. Wendy said as Urza held her head down. Wendy could hear Dark laughing out loud, which was funny. Father, what have you been up to? Makarov had some questions for me, so we talked for a long time. Are you guys? Urza asked because she was worried that her father and her father figure wouldn't get along. Relax. We parted on a good note. He even offered me a place to stay with Fairy Tail at the Guild Inn. Really? Said the two girls. Are you going to do it? Tell me about your big project. Wendy asked. Don't be afraid of that. My project is almost done. All I need to do now is keep an eye on them until I can test them. Naruto told them. Wendy nodded, I see. The three of them then felt two magical beings coming toward them. The three of them turned to see two women coming toward them. All three of them knew right away that the first woman was Irene. The second was someone Wendy and Naruto hadn't seen in a long time. Her hair was still that sun-bright blonde color. Her chocolate still shines with the same life and joy they remembered. Still, her smile was as bright as the sun. Anna Hartfilia was the one. The two women stayed a few feet away and kept staring at them. Wendy kept staring until she found her voice again and said, KKK Ka-chan? She couldn't speak. Anna got on her knees and put her arms out. Wendy didn't need to be told anything because she ran in and gave Anna a big hug, which Anna returned quickly. Mommy, Mother. Shush. It's okay. I'm here. Anna said, it's okay, Wendy, as Wendy cried. Mother and daughter got back together after being apart for a long time. Everyone looked at what was going on with a small smile. Even though Naruto still seemed anxious. After a few minutes, they got up and went their separate ways. Anna puts her hands on Wendy's cheeks. Wendy sneezes, but she soon lets out a happy sigh when she feels her mother's warm hands. You've changed a lot, Wendy. I saw what happened on the first day in your match. Wendy, you were great. I'm sure Hinata and Grandini would be just as happy. Wendy turned red. Arigato, Ka-chan. Anna smiled and looked up at Naruto before she spoke. When Naruto looked down, he jerked. Anna frowned when she saw her own husband act that way. He didn't like it at all, and she walked up to her husband until she was just a few inches away. Naruto could still feel her warmth even though she was right in front of him. He could smell the same scent from a long time ago. But he couldn't look at Anna without thinking of that day, no matter how much he missed it. All the yelling. Its color. The dead body was on the floor. Her sobs. He remembers her very well because it still makes him feel bad. He can't look at his own wife because of this. It only brought up bad memories that wouldn't stay buried. Naruto then feels her arms touch his cheeks as she lifts his head and brings him face to face with Anna, who smiles sadly at him. I have missed you, Naruto-kun. Naruto bit his lip and shook as he did so. Before looking at Anna, he took one of her hands in his own and gave it a small kiss. It's been way too long, my blonde bombshell. Anna got a little red in the face before regaining her cool. Naruto, why do you look so nervous when you're around me? Anna, you know why. I don't have a right to be near you. Not after I did to you what I did. Anna had a sad look on her face. Naruto, I've never blamed you for what happened. And I'll never understand why you don't, not even now. For everything I've done, you have every right to hate me. Even more so because of what I did to you. Toa. Him. As Naruto looked down in shame, he choked up. How could she not feel angry or bitter toward him in some way? He should get a certain amount for him. Still, both she and Irene loved him. He could even tell that they loved him more. How come? After everything he did, how could they still love him? Naruto, Anna said, but Naruto kept looking down. Naruto, look at me, she said again, but this time with more force. This time, Naruto did what his wife said, and when he turned to look at her, she was giving him a sad but still beautiful smile. You should know that you are not to blame for what happened. I never blamed you for what happened, and I never will. Naru. I mean San. Urza looked at Naruto and Anna with a mix of confusion and fear in her eyes. Yes, Urza. As Urza asked her next question, she looked nervous.
I wanted to ask you something for a while.
Ka-san told me there was something I had to ask you too. Urza took a deep breath and then asked, what did you do to Anna? What's going on? Urza was ready for a lot of things, but what happened next was not one of them. The more Naruto breathed, the paler he got. Naruto stumbled when he stood up, but Anna, Irene, and Wendy soon helped him keep his balance. Urza was scared by the way her father looked. She hadn't expected him to act this way when she asked him a question. Gomen, San. I didn't mean to be so hard on you. You can forget about that question. You don't need to. Urza started to talk, but her father stopped her by raising his hand. Naruto slowly fixes himself up, and his wives and Wendy stay close by in case something goes wrong. Urza still felt bad about making her father act that way, but Wendy, Anna, and Irene's looks told her not to blame herself. Even though it seems like Wendy probably knew what he would say when she asked him this question. Anna and Irene looked a lot more worried because they hadn't thought his reaction would be this bad. Before he spoke to his daughter, Naruto took a few deep breaths. It's okay, Urza. You are not to blame. What happened? I'll tell you. It's not necessary. Naruto gave a head shake. No, I must. I promised myself I wouldn't lie to my kids or keep secrets unless it was really important. But you should be aware of this. Since it could affect if you let me into your life or not.
Urza watched with fear, and the other people watched with worried looks on their faces.
As you know, 400 years ago, when the war was at its worst, I was getting less and less interested in the war. It was no longer very important to me. But I still wanted to make a world where my kids would never have to go to war. So I went to the person who could help me the most. I asked him to help me get the power I needed to end the war. He agreed, and if that day ever comes, it will haunt me for the rest of my life. Naruto said, but he kept the last part of what he said to himself. Urza became worried when her father started to talk. Naruto's view, flashback. Pain. As I absorbed the dark demon, every part of my body hurt like hell. I screamed in agony for what seemed like hours, as if my whole body were being torn apart from the inside out. As soon as the pain stopped, I could feel my mind slowly slipping away. Anger. I started to feel pure, unrestrained rage, and the more pain I felt, the more rage I felt. I lost track of everything. I could only see a red mist, and the other things I saw and heard were distorted. I could hear a lot of screams, but I never stopped to think about them. I kept killing everything that came into view. Until I was attacked by 5 big shadows. Or at least that's what I thought I saw through the fog. As the 5 shadows fought back, Naruto kept attacking them. I could hear them saying something to me, but the words were jumbled and hard for me to understand. Eventually, I used my soul-slaying magic to kill all 5 of them. I heard their screams of pain before they made a distraction so they could get away. I went after them and found a few more shadows that I got rid of quickly and without much trouble. I finally got close to the 5 people, who were standing in front of something huge. I could tell they were holding onto something, but I was too confused to care. I was about to lunge when a person walked into view. I could hear the figure and the 5 shouting at each other, but I could only make out some of the words. Throw them out. Can't do it alone. No. Othera. Way. Their future lies in them. I lunged again as the people started to move away. The figure tried again to stop me, so I attacked. Then I heard a scream that broke my heart. I froze when I heard that scream. I had heard that scream before. As the red haze began to clear up, I slowly regained some of my awareness. What I saw would always stick in my mind. The first thing I saw was my best friend Anna on the ground, holding her stomach in pain. I heard her sob and saw tears fall from her eyes. I heard her say, "Please be alive. Don't die, please." I looked to see if there was a blood trail leading away from her. I followed it until I found a small body in the middle of a pool of blood. It was our unborn child's body. I slowly crawled over to him and shakily put my hand on his chest to see if he was still alive, hoping for a miracle. There wasn't any, though. He was still hurt, but as the minutes went by, I could feel him getting colder. I looked around and finally saw what was going on. Several dead dragons' bodies were all over the area. Dragons I thought of as allies, friends, and family. I saw more, though. I also saw the dead bodies of all the children they had used as dragon slayers. Even the body of my father was among them. As I looked down at my reflection in the blood, I could feel tears coming out of my eyes. I was covered in blood from head to toe. So much blood was in my hair that it made me look like I had red highlights. I had so much blood in my eyes that it looked like I was crying blood tears. What on earth have I done? I asked myself this when I heard my name being called. I looked up and saw Anna give me a sad smile and say a few last words before walking through what I now know was a gate. At that moment, I lost any sense I had gotten back, and I went crazy again. I screamed in shock and pain as my power started to take over my body. As my body began to grow, I could feel a change. My muscles and bones started to tear apart and put themselves back together in stronger ways. Scales covered my body, my arms turned into claws, my feet turned into talons, my teeth turned into sharp fangs, and from my back came wings and a tail. I had reached the end of my change. I had become a dragon slayer for the 4th time in my family. The people who kill dragons and turn into dragons. I took off into the sky with a loud roar and went to the place where the last battle of the war would take place. End of flashback. Naruto couldn't hold it in any longer, so he started to cry hard and his tears fell to the ground. The 3 girls tried their best to comfort him, even though they were crying too. Urza bent down to steady herself because she was shaking so much. Tears were coming out of her eyes. Everyone cried in silence for a few minutes, until Naruto spoke again. After that, I lost all sense of reason and went on a killing spree on the battlefield. I didn't feel the least bit bad about attacking both sides. Irene was there, too, but she didn't have much power to stop me. No matter how much she asked me to stop, I wouldn't. Lucky for me, my father, who had survived my first attack, saved me one last time. He gave up his last bit of strength and, with the help of his crystal, died to help me stop going crazy. The action caused a huge explosion that killed the last dragons still on the battlefield. When I woke up, the bodies of both my enemies and my friends were all around me. I thought back to what had happened. I did everything. I screamed out in pain and anger at myself and the shame I felt. I left as soon as my son and the other kids were buried, and I never looked back. Urza couldn't do anything but listen for a while as she took everything in. Then she heard her dad talking. "I get it if you don't want to talk to me. Why would you want to be close to a monster, anyway? So I'll understand if you come to dislike me." Urza was quiet for a few minutes before she decided what to do and moved forward. She told Wendy and the others to let her in by giving them a nod. She then stooped down so she could see her father's face. She put her hands on his shoulders and gave him a tight hug. Before Urza spoke again, Naruto was in shock. "It's nothing you did. You did everything you could to end the war because you cared about your children. You just wanted them to be happy. That's not a bad thing. As I told your mother, I have no right to judge you for what you did in the war. I lost a lot of people, and I always thought it was my fault, but there wasn't much I could do about it. So, all I can say is that you also did the best you could with what you had. You really feel bad about what you did because you are here to make up for it. So please drop it. You can't keep living like this. I know my brother would want you to get on with your life. You need to stop carrying the weight of the past. We need you to live. Anna and Mother need you. Wendy needs you. She wants you. I need you. I want you to be in my life like my mother was. Please, Dad." Naruto felt his eyes get bigger as he returned Urza's hug and put his head on her shoulder while crying and saying, "Thank you," over and over again. Soon, everyone else joined in the family hug. The family stayed like that for a while, until they slowly started to move apart. Naruto wiped away the last traces of tears on his cheeks as he smiled at Urza. "Thank you, Urza. I promise to do what you want me to do. I'll be a good father to you and your sisters, I promise." Urza just smiled in return. The others smiled as they watched the father and daughter get closer. "To-san, that gate you talked about in your story, is it the same one you warned Wendy about and that Carla saw in her vision?" Naruto nodded. "It is, yes. Can you please explain more about it?" Urza said. "That thing is called the Eclipse Gate. It uses celestial spirit magic to open a portal that lets someone travel through time. Go back in time." Urza mumbled in shock until her eyes grew wide with understanding. "Wait. In your story, Anna went through the gate with 5 kids. Wendy is your oldest child, but she is actually your first. What does that mean?" "Yes, Urza. Wendy was one of the 5 kids who took their dragons through the portal." "Which other dragons were there? What about the rest of the kids?" "Those kids are still alive and well, but I can't say anything yet about the dragons. After the GMG, you'll know." "Are the other children Natsu, Gajeel, and those 2 from Sabretooth?" Urza asked right away. Naruto raised an eyebrow, amused by how quickly she got it. "Tell me. What let it out? I always thought it was odd that Natsu had trouble reading and writing."
Still, he was talked about as if he knew, but I could never understand what he wrote.
Then, when Laxus tried to take over, Natsu and Gajeel couldn't leave because anyone over 80 couldn't get through a rune wall. I've never been able to figure out why they couldn't get through. Now it makes sense. Naruto, Irene, Anna, and Wendy could only laugh at what was happening. "With as much sense as your mother, my Benihime." Urza turned red. "Say, thank you." Then a question that had been bothering her for a while came to her mind. "How did you know that I was your daughter?" Urza asked in an interested way. "At first, I thought Irene gave birth to you and that her children and grandchildren still lived on. I thought you were the last person she would talk to. And since Lucy and Anna looked so much alike, the similarity could be easily explained away."
Urza agreed with his reasoning, since it made sense for him to think that way.
Also, she thought the same thing when she met Anna for the first time. She asked, "So when did you figure it out?" "It happened when I went to Magnolia and got into the local hospital without permission. I looked through the archives and found that they had some of your blood. I tried it, and you know what happened next. I've got a question about Lucy." Naruto mused. "Well, if she is one of your children, does that mean that Lucy might be able to kill dragons?" she asked. Naruto's head tipped to the side as he thought, and the other 3 also looked like they were thinking. I really don't know. Celestial spirit magic was used by everyone in the Heartfilia family. So it's very unlikely that she has dragon-killing magic. If, on the other hand, she were to marry a dragon slayer, it's possible that her old blood will come back to life. But all of this is just a guess." Urza nodded. "I see. All of that makes sense. Is there anything else about me that you want to know?" Urza took a deep breath because there was one more thing she wanted to ask but was afraid to. Naruto saw that she was in trouble and just smiled before gently patting her cheek. "You can ask me whatever you want, Urza. Tell me what happened to you when you were young. I want to see what it's like to be a shinobi." Urza then felt the temperature drop a few degrees as she looked into her father's eyes, which seemed to get as cold as the Arctic. She could also see that her mother and Anna looked very angry, while Wendy's pretty little face turned into a frown. "Is everything ready? It will be hard for you, just like it was hard for Wendy." "I'll tell you the same thing I told Wendy. My upbringing isn't for the weak of heart, and you might hate people because of it. Have you thought about that?" Urza bit her lip before giving her father a serious look. "Yes. Please, Dad." Naruto kept looking at Urza for a few more seconds before he let out a sigh. He snapped his fingers and a big trash can came into view. Urza seemed to be puzzled. "Call it insurance." Then Naruto hit her on the head. "Ready up. Byakugan. Remember to." Both Naruto and Urza's eyes turned a pale white color. Like Wendy, Urza saw all of her father's memories, from the time he was born to the time he was killed. It took the 2 a few minutes to get back from memory lane. Urza did what was expected and ran to the trash can as soon as she was done. Naruto sighed and went over to pat Urza on the back as she continued to throw up and cry until, after a few minutes, she could only heave heavily into the trash can. When Urza looked up, her red, puffy eyes from all the crying were back. She then ran at her father as she sobbed into his chest. She was in a very bad mood. Naruto let out a sad sigh at this. Why do I always seem to make the women in my life cry? He asked himself. After seeing her father die, Urza held on to him for dear life. How could anyone stay sane after all she had been through? What Naruto went through would have driven most people crazy. She now knew why her father was so jaded and why Wendy got so angry when she talked about Konoha. When it came to that village, her father was right about one thing. It made her feel like she was going to explode with anger. Her dad fought for them in the war. He hurt himself and cried over that hellhole. And what does he get in return? He was put in jail and killed for completing his mission. Then Urza heard a voice start to talk. That town hurt our dad. Our kin. It needs to be destroyed, a harsh woman's voice said. Urza jumped a little at this. She turned to see her worried father looking at her. Is everything okay? Naruto asked as Urza nodded. I believe so. Naruto stood up and helped Urza get to her feet. He also helped her wipe her tears away. Naruto sighed as he took a few steps back and leaned on the balcony. Now you understand a part of my past. I hate them, Urza said in a gloomy voice. That's what I thought would happen, Naruto said. Any sane person would have gone crazy a long time ago. If they were crazy enough, they would have destroyed that village and maybe even the rest of the world. Your dad is one of the most determined people we've ever met. He is almost the definition of will. Irene said with Anna nodding in agreement. Thank you for your kind words, my queens. I have one last question. Urza asked, what changed you? Why did you decide to do all this in the end? You can thank both my father and the chronicler. The historian? Anna and Irene both yelled out in surprise. You mean the first people on Earth were involved? Anna asked. Who is the historian? Urza asked, sounding confused. He's an elder dragon, which means he's the son of a dragon god from the beginning of time. He keeps an eye on the dragons and has written down everything about them, from how they were born to how they died. I was able to see Thorin because he gave me a crystal. They decided to help me by staging an intervention. The two of them convinced you to make a change? Naruto shook his head when Urza asked. No, they had help from more than one person, but one was better than the rest. Hinata. Hinata? Irene, Anna, and Urza all screamed out of surprise. How about that? Urza said in a confused way, I thought she was dead in your first dimension. Let's just say that they asked the Shinigami for help. What went on? Soon, Naruto's eyes started to shine. Let me explain. Remember to. When the three women thought about the memory, it made them cry again. But not out of sadness, but thanks. Many thanks to Hinata. Thank you Hinata-sama. Urza quietly said. You still loved Naruto with all your heart and soul, even after all these years. You wanted to be with him so much that you were even willing to fall with him. You made him remember that he still had love in this world. You had faith that we could help Naruto get better. You really did deserve to be the leader of our pack. Thank you, Hinata. Anna's voice was full of thanks. I promise we won't miss this chance. We will do what you want, Hinata. Irene wondered. Urza said, she was really amazing, as Naruto sighed and looked up into the sky. She was, for sure. Tu-san, I don't mean to be rude, but didn't you treat Minato Jiji and Kushina Ba-chan a little too harshly? Naruto let out another sigh and then looked at his daughter. Maybe I was a little bit.
But please know that I've been alone my whole life and have no idea who my parents were.
I always wondered if my parents had left me here by accident. I started to wonder if they even cared about me. I felt so hurt when I found out who they were. My father was the person I looked up to most of my life, and he was also the one who cursed me. I got so mad at him that I didn't want to talk to either of them anymore. Then, just hearing them talk like that was the last straw. But after thinking about it for 7 years and talking to Wendy about it, I realized that I was so angry because I felt like they had abandoned me. I should have been the most important thing to them, but they put the village, the shinobi system, and their jobs as leaders ahead of me. I was angry about it then and for many years before we met again. Naruto told them. Now? Urza asked. Now I'm not sure. I'm not mad at them. But I also don't love them. He told the truth because he didn't know where he stood with his real parents. He didn't hate them anymore, but he wasn't going to start calling them Mom and Dad anytime soon. The family was happy with the quiet until Irene said something. I think we should return to our guilds. We are still in the GMG, and these last 2 days will probably be the hardest. Irene hugged Urza hard, and Anna did the same for Wendy. Be safe, you two, and good luck tomorrow, Irene told them. I hope for the best for your guild, Anna said. Arigato. Wendy and Urza said. The two of them then gave Naruto a strong but loving hug and a soft but passionate kiss. I'll see you both very soon. Hi, my husband. Anna and Irene said. Oh, Naruto, let's talk about how you trained Wendy in the Makai. Understand? Anna said this in a cold way. Naruto shivered, but he still gave a nod. After that, Anna and Irene went away in a golden seal. Naruto groaned. He gave a small smile to his daughters and looked at them. Let's go get some sleep. It's been a long night and we need some sleep. Urza and Wendy nodded. Urza will ask later about the voice. She just wants to sleep for now because it's been a long day. The three of them walked to the guild lodging with small smiles on their faces. Naruto felt closer to both of his daughters and he hoped that would continue. Only 2 days are left until the time that was promised.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.